tide of battle may turn against us. Ao Tian spoke to Ling Yun. Indeed, Ling Yun nodded in agreement. For them, this silver-armored general represented an unparalleled adversary, teetering on the brink of the quasi-emperor realm, far beyond the capabilities of any ordinary great sage. The recent battles had considerably drained his holy energy, particularly due to the repeated activation of the imperial weapon, which even strained his physique, forged as it was in the likeness of the Sword King. Moreover, had it not been for Ao Tian's earlier surprise attack, their struggle would have been far more arduous. Their lower realm was indeed a significant handicap. Dragon Emperor's Sacred Thunder. Ao Tian struck first, as golden lightning surged forth from the two dragon whiskers. With a resounding crack, the vast Sacred Thunder surged toward the silver-armored general. The Dragon Emperor's Sacred Thunder was the most lethal technique within the true dragon's arsenal. When perfected, all things would fall silent. The mountains trembled, echoing with a thunderous roar, as if they were on the verge of being utterly overturned. Do you truly believe you can slay me? The silver-armored general bellowed, as he soared into the air, a deity materializing behind him in synchrony with his movements, powerfully swinging the long blade in his grasp. The silver blade's radiance arched like a crescent moon, defying the heavens, and remarkably countered the Dragon Emperor's Sacred Thunder. Seeing the deity behind the silver-armored general, Ao Tian was struck with alarm and instinctively sought to retreat. Could it be that this apparition was also a manifestation of a great emperor, akin to those within the Dao sect? Ling Yun, discerning his thoughts, conveyed through their connection. Do not panic. This deity has yet to reach full fruition and cannot harness the full might of the imperial path. Steady yourself. Upon finishing his words, he summoned forth the resplendent vision of mountains and rivers at his back, materializing a sacred soil that pressed forward. The sacred soil emanated a divine aura, with the ethereal forms of ancient divine beasts coiling within, expanding infinitely at Ling Yun's behest, momentarily shrouding the entire sky. With a thunderous impact, the silver-armored general could not withstand the oppressive force and was driven into the ground, creating a colossal pit. He coughed blood, his very bones shattered. Die! Ling Yun descended upon his sword, cleaving with a fierce edge, and with a single stroke, severed the head of the silver-armored general. The vision before him was that of the ancient immortals. The general's soul fire erupted as he beheld the overwhelming forms of the true dragon, white tiger, and golden crow. And he cried out in terror. You speak too much. Ling Yun reproached, a beam of black sword light shooting from his brow, instantly extinguishing the silver-armored general's soul. Meanwhile, the battle of the white-browed Taoist was nearing its conclusion, as a palm print, colossal as a mountain, descended, obliterating the elder great sage into mere dust. The remnants of the Sword State's many saints, numbering in the tens of thousands, were all annihilated. Firelinger and her companions retracted their divine glow, standing upon the city walls, their battle armor shimmering with phosphorescence, red tassels billowing in the wind, exuding an air of victorious triumph. The cultivators of Xianzhou were beaming with joy, having breached the borders of a power of eternal caliber. In the past, such a victory would have been inconceivable to them. Yet under the leadership of Ji Xian, they triumphed with a casualty ratio of 1-5, achieving this feat with remarkable ease. The Dao sect shall prevail, exclaimed a soldier, waving a banner inscribed with the character from mystery. The Dao sect shall prevail. The Dao sect shall prevail. In an instant, tens of thousands present were galvanized by this fervor, their voices soaring through the clouds and echoing across the mountains. However, Taoist Bai Mei furrowed his brow in concern. Ling Yun approached, inquiring, Elder Bai Mei, what troubles you? Is our side not faring well? Bai Mei replied, Why have I yet to receive news from my junior brother? Ling, my young friend, you are unaware of the internal circumstances of Jian Prefecture. News from within should have reached us by now. Could something have gone awry with my junior brother? A sense of unease blossomed within Bai Mei's heart. If that were the case, the war was far from over. And Lingjian Mountain might. Suddenly, an ancient yet serene laughter reverberated in everyone's ears. This voice struck like thunder in their minds, causing a profound shock that felt almost unbearable. What is happening? In an instant, cries of anguish erupted, transforming the previously jubilant atmosphere into one of despair. All soldiers clasped their heads, blood streaming from their orifices, their skulls riddled with cracks, as if they might shatter at any moment. Boom, boom, boom. Ultimately, many cultivators of lower cultivation could not withstand the soft laughter, their heads exploding like overripe melons. The once grand frontier was once again stained crimson, and the soldiers, who had just reveled in victory, now fell, grievously wounded or lifeless. Firelinger and Mo Yuling were in dire straits as well, blood seeping from their orifices, while Mo Yue and Mo Yuling writhed in pain. A formidable imperial might was relentlessly assaulting their consciousness. At that moment, a refreshing breeze swept through, penetrating the hearts of all, akin to a spring rain imbued with vibrant life force that mitigated the oppressive imperial aura. Master? Ling Yun felt a stirring within, quickly rising to his feet and gazing towards a distant mountain. Ji Xian, clad in white, strolled along a winding mountain path, his demeanor tranquil. He held a purple gold gourd, occasionally taking a sip, an ethereal mist enveloping him, rendering him otherworldly. Yet, his gaze remained fixated on a singular direction. Du Guyun emerged from another mountain path. Despite his age, his complexion was flushed and his spirit vigorous. He moved lightly towards the mountain range where the conflict unfolded. Everyone present held their breath, paralyzed with trepidation. On the battlefield of eternal powers, two great emperors had converged. Chapter 220. The Supreme Domain on the Cliff. Du Guyun surveyed the brutal battlefield before him, his heart betraying no emotion. He merely cast a fleeting glance at Ji Xian, seemingly intent on disregarding him, before shifting his gaze elsewhere, ultimately resting upon Aotan. A true dragon, how astonishing. I had thought that aside from the immortal ancient, only the Ji family possessed a true dragon's corpse. Little did I expect to encounter a living one. How about coming over to be my pet? The tone of Du Guyun was light and teasing, yet his words carried an undeniable pressure that rendered one unable to resist. At his level, even a mere breath could stir the very fabric of the heavens and the earth. Out Yin, feeling the weight of the atmosphere, dared not exhale too forcefully, cautiously fixating on the old man perched atop the distant peak. Through that aura, he felt as though he were facing an ancient giant, even as a true dragon. His flesh trembled with an inconspicuous ache. An invisible oppression pervaded the realm, akin to a great mountain pressing down upon all, suffocating in its intensity. After a prolonged silence, Du Guyun remarked, "No response. Then I shall take it as your acquiescence," followed by a serene chuckle. He reached forward, intent on capturing Out Yin. A colossal black hand, imbued with supreme sword intent, materialized, casting a shadow upon the ground as vast as a large cloud. Out Yin felt an overwhelming pressure and found himself utterly immobilized. "Huh, to disregard me. You truly are audacious for an old wretch," echoed Ji Xian's voice. He gently tapped the purple golden gourd at his waist, producing two resonant sounds that shattered the black hand on the spot. Thunderous roars erupted as a tremendous wave of energy surged outward, like a tide, obliterating the walls of the outer city of Sword State into countless fragments of stone and earth. Du Guyun glanced at Ji Xian and declared, "I have stated before. You are inadequate. Sword State is my domain. Even the gods must heed my command. You cannot hope to rival me. Return to your training for another 1,000,000 years. Only then will you be worthy of challenging me." This proclamation dripped with arrogance, for Du Guyun, as a disciple of the Sword Emperor and within the realm of the Sword Pavilion, believed he wielded dominion over the cosmic tides. He fancied that, were it not for that long-vanished elder of the Ji clan, no one across the 3,000 states could stand against him. Having spoken, he swept past Ji Xian, intensifying his effort to seize Out Yin again. "Old fool, I offered you a chance." Ji Xian's brow furrowed. An emperor must not be insulted. With his fingers poised, he made a subtle gesture forward. A seemingly trivial movement transformed, in an instant, into a soaring azure sword light that cleaved the heavens asunder, bifurcating the world. A mighty river cascaded from the 9 heavens, its grandeur overwhelming, as millions of sword principles trembled in unison. Upon witnessing the river's descent, Du Guyun's expression shifted to one of astonishment. He then took the matter seriously, drawing his sword from his waist and leaping into the air to strike. Flying immortal 12 styles, Du Guyun's robe billowed, his hair dancing with the wind as he swiftly wielded his sword, executing profoundly intricate sword maneuvers, with countless afterimages appearing around him. In that moment, 12 ethereal figures materialized. Break. The surging river collided violently with a massive sword curtain that had arisen to meet it. The once empty void now fractured like a collapsing structure, revealing a black, chaotic expanse. Retreat. Out Yin sensed the impending peril, abruptly swinging his dragon tail, spiraling downward to draw a portion of the cultivators into his newly forged realm. Similarly, Ling Yun and others swiftly retreated, striving to carry away a portion of the vast army. A chilling gale surged forth from the void, slicing through the mountains and earth like a razor, leaving behind deep chasms. Those cultivators who had yet to withdraw were instantly torn to shreds by the tempest, their agonized cries echoing as they fell at the city gate. The great river roared, relentlessly crashing against the sword barrier. It transformed into a river of sword intent, embodying a fragment of the heavenly laws, swiftly overwhelming the barrier with its might. Du Guyun soared into the sky, vanishing in an instant atop the cliff. In the next moment, that cliff, along with the mountains behind it, was swept away by the torrent of sword intent, submerging thousands of miles of terrain. When the tide receded, the once undulating mountain range had morphed into a rugged depression. This was the essence of an emperor's battle. There was no need for ostentatious techniques, for even a mere gesture could unleash earth-shattering devastation. Had this strike occurred in the cosmos, it would have obliterated an entire starfield, shattering billions of stars. You have conquered the river of sword intent. What do you see at the end of the imperial path? Du Guyun's demeanor had undergone a significant transformation. He no longer regarded Ji Xian with disdain, but instead fixed his gaze upon him, eager to uncover the answer. Ji Xian smiled, responding playfully. "I see a monkey digging graves at Sword Pavilion with a Luoyang shovel. Is it not your second uncle? You seek death." Du Guyun seethed with rage, incredulous that a mere emperor at the law manifestation realm would dare speak so brazenly before him. It seemed yet another emperor was destined to fall from the heavens. With that, he summoned a cerulean sword, his weapon of enlightenment, which had nurtured a divine spirit within, far surpassing the strength of ordinary imperial artifacts. I concur with your words. Today, I shall send you to meet your second uncle. Ji Xian maintained his relaxed demeanor, conversing easily as he stepped forward to confront him unarmed. Yet his strikes were incredibly swift, each blow possessing the power to move mountains and fill seas, to pluck stars and change the moon, as he engaged Du Guiyun in a fierce exchange of blows. Clang, clang. Ji Xian's divine body radiated a celestial light, enveloped in seven-colored brilliance, as two manifestations, one of chaos and one in the form of a sword, emerged behind him. He withstood the imperial weapon with his physical form, seeming to gain the upper hand. His disciples and the vast army had long retreated tens of thousands of miles away, watching in astonishment at this earth-shattering battle between emperors. Such a level of confrontation contained the essence of destruction within each strike, a realm far beyond their reach. On the other side, the two had separated. Ji Xian, you have indeed manifested two law forms, displaying some strength, but it is still far from sufficient. I shall make you aware that realm is the ultimate power. Du Guiyun, wielding the cerulean long sword, unfurled a circular domain beneath his feet, inscribed with intricate patterns. The supreme domain. In an instant, a formidable force erupted within the circular domain, unleashing tens of thousands of flying sword apparitions that hovered silently, awaiting Du Guiyun's command. This was the supreme domain refined from the supreme realm, a fascinating prospect, indeed. Perhaps it was time to seek an opportunity to break through to a higher realm. Ji Xian gazed down at the supreme power surrounding him and nodded. What of Tufashang? Under absolute realm suppression, even Tufashang are insignificant. If you do not reveal what lies at the end of the Sword Dao River, I shall personally delve into your soul. Du Guiyun sneered. With that, a torrent of flying swords surged forward, each embodying his quasi-immortal sword intent, a testament to his lifelong achievements. 2. Who do you look down upon? In an instant, 6 Fashang materialized behind Ji Xian. Driven by sacred power, 6 beams of divine light shot forth from the Fashang, sweeping away all the flying swords. Boom. Du Guiyun was struck by one of the Fashang, sent tumbling backward, and when he rose, golden blood trickled from the corner of his mouth. This golden blood, infused with sacred essence, was linked to his very origin. His foundation had been compromised. How is this possible? Du Guiyun's face contorted in disbelief as he looked forward. His sword path was on the verge of transcending humanity and the realms of heaven and earth. How could it be suppressed? Besides that immortal sword, did Ji Xian possess other means connected to the immortal path? Doubt clouded Du Guiyun's mind, leaving him perplexed. As the dust settled and the 6 Fashang hovered in the air, Du Guiyun's jaw dropped, retreating several steps, his eyes nearly bursting as he beheld the most improbable sight. Damn it, 6 Fashang. Chapter 221. The Emperor's battle. Ji Xian stood amidst a desolate ruin, the 6 Fashang vibrating in unison behind him, their radiant divine light illuminating the heavens above. Du Guiyun's long hair billowed in the wind, his entire being frozen in place. He scrutinized the 6 Fashang repeatedly, ultimately compelled to accept the stark reality. The condition for becoming an emperor is to elevate a single path to its utmost limit, thereby yielding one's own Dao fruit. This is an exceedingly intricate and prolonged process. Throughout history, those who have attained emperorship, starting from the mortal realm's Qi refinement stage to the pinnacle of the quasi-emperor realm, traversing over 10 stages, must concentrate intensely on a single great path, ultimately attaining emperorship through that path. It is this singular journey, seemingly straightforward, that has confounded countless prodigies throughout the ages. For millions of years, innumerable geniuses have struggled along this path, yet many have met their demise at the threshold of the emperor realm, their lives extinguished, their Dao dissipated. How could Ji Xian, of all people, have comprehended 6 great paths? As this thought crossed his mind, Du Guiyun's breath grew increasingly labored, muttering to himself, an anomaly. You must be an anomaly. The great calamity has arrived, giving birth to countless children of destiny. You are surely one of them, and perhaps the strongest among them. My lifespan is waning, my fortune is nearly spent. Perhaps by vanquishing you, I can rejuvenate my yet-to-be transcended sword path, or perhaps break through the 100 shackles. Upon finishing his thoughts, a sudden brightness ignited in his once dull eyes, and he gazed at Ji Xian with a newfound fervor. Feeling the intensity of that gaze, Ji Xian was seized by a chill. Did this old wretch harbor some nefarious inclinations? Du Guiyun straightened himself and produced a half-plant of undying medicine, consuming it. Immediately, an overwhelming surge of vitality erupted from the crown of his head, roaring forth like a dragon, soaring into the heavens. As the resonant echoes of his bones reverberated, an immense divine power radiated from every pore of his being, amplifying his strength manifold. Upon witnessing this spectacle, Ji Xian let out a derisive snort, remarking that the potency of the elixir of immortality was exceedingly domineering. Consuming it without proper refinement would inflict grave harm upon one's essence. Was it truly worth it to temporarily augment his combat prowess? In a calm tone, Du Guiyun replied, slaying you would indeed make it worthwhile. With that, He let a droplet of blood fall onto the azure divine sword in his hand. Instantly, the sword spirit was awakened, much to Ji Xian's astonishment, as it had touched upon the realm of the celestial path, evolving into a quasi-immortal spirit. Kill! Du Guyun bellowed, and in the fleeting moment of his disappearance, the ground beneath them erupted violently, shattering the earth's surface. In that instant, Ji Xian detected a mysterious force emanating from below, a subtle smile gracing his lips. He meticulously inscribed several formations around them to shield his disciples from the aftermath of their impending clash. Despite their distance of hundreds of miles, the ferocity of an imperial battle was formidable enough to pose a threat to them. Subsequently, Ji Xian invoked the sixth great Fashang, engaging in a fierce duel with Du Guyun. The Sword King strike. Du Guyun lunged forward, thrusting his sword, and a phantom of a white tiger materialized, roaring with the might of the sun and moon, causing the earth to tremble and fracture. He had inherited the true teachings of the Sword Emperor. Utilizing a technique once devised by the Emperor himself, bang! Ji Xian unleashed the chaotic Fashang, enveloping the area in a nebulous mist that coalesced into a towering wall, ethereal as if the heavens had yet to be formed, successfully blocking the fearsome strike. However, the mountains stretching miles behind Ji Xian were instantly leveled, the once majestic border of Jianzhou obliterated by a single stroke. Boom! The mountains crumbled, debris scattering, transforming the surrounding landscape into a vast ocean of earth and stone. Seizing the opportunity as Du Guyun withdrew his sword, Ji Xian fortified his right arm with the seven-colored radiance of the little man Fashang, his palm morphing into a resplendent hand, descending with force. Without hesitation, Du Guyun detonated an imperial weapon, sacrificing it to withstand Ji Xian's formidable strike. The elixir's potency had a limited duration. He needed to resolve the battle swiftly, intending to use the quasi-mortal spirit within his sword to achieve mutual destruction, after which he would turn to slay Ji Xian. The explosion of the imperial weapon unleashed unparalleled might, capable of grievously injuring an emperor. The resplendent hand shattered instantly, dispersing into a myriad of misty hues, enveloping the battlefield. With a single strike, silence enveloped all. Suddenly, the mist was cleaved apart by a luminous sword ray as Du Guyun emerged from within, thrusting his sword forward. This time, he summoned the power of supremacy, the most formidable force within the realm of humanity, injuring any celestial being that dared to come into contact. Yet, Ji Xian remained unfazed, his six Fashang protecting him, as he gently pushed forward with his amassed power, an embodiment of ultimate strength capable of shattering myriad laws. Bang! 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 The two clashed repeatedly, shaking the heavens and earth, radiating brilliance. It was as if this world were on the brink of annihilation, with fractured space and ravaged landscapes in every direction. Not a single area left unscathed. Even so, this was within Ji Xian's formations. Had it been in the outside world, Jianzhou might have been eternally erased from the maps of the 3,000 states. Still not wielding your celestial sword? Without it, how will you contend with me? Du Guyun let out a thunderous roar, his sword strikes growing increasingly forceful. Ji Xian raised one hand to the heavens, his fingertips swirling with chaotic light, repelling all encroaching sword energies. Why the haste? Do you intend to use your quasi-immortal spirit to self-destruct, hoping for a trade with Qiongyi? His gaze was piercing, as if he could see through everything. Upon hearing this, Du Guyun's expression shifted. How had his intentions been discerned? Seeing his countenance, Ji Xian couldn't help but chuckle, taunting. Without wielding your immortal sword, I can still overpower you. Quickly summon that thing from beneath the ground, without invoking the last of the Sword Pavilion's true essence. You stand no chance against me. He removed the gourd from his waist, uncorked it, and released a stream of white mist, transforming it into a cascading waterfall that surged downward. This was the wine he had consumed. With a resounding crash, the torrent plunged from an immense height, striking Du Guyun's supreme domain directly, shattering it into countless fragments. His face was filled with astonishment as he gazed at the purple gold gourd in Ji Xian's hand, his pupils trembling. Why did he sense an aura of immortality emanating from that gourd? Ji Xian did not pause, casually tossing the cork downward. The wooden cork, softened by the wine, morphed into a colossal golden mountain, pressing down. The motion was so nonchalant, as if Du Guyun were of no consequence. With a thunderous rumble, the cork transformed into a mountain so weighty that upon touching the ground, it sank, turning a stretch of plain into a deep pit. Du Guyun found himself trapped beneath the cork, struggling in vain to move. He marveled at this cork. What was it? There was no trace of power fluctuation. Yet it felt heavier than an ancient divine mountain, suffocating him. Sighing, Du Guyun lamented, realizing there was no hope left. Ji Xian was toying with him, never truly serious in the battle. He then prepared to self-destruct, intending to drag Ji Xian down with him. But in the next instant, he suddenly felt weightless. The cork flew from the pit and returned to Ji Xian's hand. What are you doing? Du Guyun stood, looking at Ji Xian in confusion. Ji Xian smirked, saying, Of course, I am here to humiliate you. You bastard. Du Guyun's fury surged. A sovereign must not be insulted. Even if he could not defeat Ji Xian today, he would still self-destruct to take him down. At that moment, Ji Xian wiped the smile from his face and said, "Draw out the celestial dragon vein from below, and I shall spare your life." Chapter 222, The True Spirit of the White Tiger. How do you know about the celestial dragon vein? Du Guiyun was taken aback. He had been preparing to detonate the underground dragon vein, seeking to perish alongside Ji Xian. That vein was a pure celestial conduit, originating from the primeval era, developed into a celestial grade by the former Sword Emperor. For millions of years, Du Guiyun had relied on this celestial vein for his cultivation, soaring through the ranks of the imperial realm, unparalleled by any before him. Yet, his abilities were insufficient. He had not reached the immortal realm and could never unleash the full power of this vein. Wait, as this thought crossed his mind, a sly smile crept upon Du Guiyun's lips as a plan formed in his mind. If he could rely on Ji Xian's methods to activate the dragon vein, combined with the incomplete celestial formation he possessed, perhaps he could subdue him. Coughing, he feigned reluctance and said, "I lack the ability to draw it out." Ji Xian furrowed his brows and said, "You old fool, after 1,000,000 years on this mountain, you still cannot unearth the dragon vein? This supreme path has become a farce." Upon hearing this, a surge of anger welled up within Du Guiyun. How dare Ji Xian insult him repeatedly? The emperor would rather die in battle than endure such humiliation. Yet, Du Guiyun managed to force a smile and said, "I kindly ask you to lend your assistance. I will cast the spell in front, and you shall stabilize the power from behind." Ji Xian nodded, stowing away the purple golden gourd, and sighed, "Very well. Relying solely on you, this old fool, is indeed insufficient." Humph. Du Guiyun let out a soft huff, turning away to reveal a sinister smile, inwardly vowing, "You shall see soon enough." Ji Xian gazed at his hunched figure and smiled gently, as if seeing through it all, merely a pawn in my grand design. Du Guiyun strode towards the vast abyss. In the struggle with Ji Xian, the entire land had been torn asunder, now riddled with cracks and deep chasms. Dragon summoning technique. Du Guiyun murmured softly, gesturing with his fingers as a streak of azure light soared from his fingertips, illuminating the entire region. Instantly, the ground began to tremble. It was an inexplicable force, as if life itself was bestowed upon the mountains, which trembled in unison, faint breaths echoing through the air. A white tiger? Ji Xian peered through the immense chasm and glimpsed the situation beneath. Within the crystalline celestial vein, a true spirit of a white tiger was gestating. He conjured small worlds in his palm, utilizing secret power to assist Du Guiyun in stabilizing the celestial vein. In the next moment, an immense force of celestial energy surged, roiling beneath the earth. Boom! A robust blue dragon erupted from the abyss, soaring into the sky, yearning to ascend. This was not a true dragon, but rather a manifestation of celestial rules. Suppress! Ji Xian bellowed, conjuring a massive hand of myriad colors that forcefully drove the blue dragon back into the depths. "Impressive techniques, my friend," Du Guiyun exclaimed with a beaming smile, offering continuous praise. However, he discreetly activated a set of formation discs behind Ji Xian. This was a genuine celestial-grade formation, albeit fragmented, unable to unleash its full potential. Du Guiyun had previously attempted to activate it, but found it utterly unresponsive, lamenting the vast chasm between celestial and mortal realms. Yet today, a complete celestial vein was about to emerge for his use. As he busied himself activating the formation, he remained oblivious to the white tiger spirit within the blue dragon. Finally completed, Du Guiyun gazed at the ancient formation disc in his hand, a sinister smile gracing his lips. "Why is it still not ready?" Ji Xian asked languidly, a hint of impatience in his tone. Yet, every movement did not escape his keen observation. "My friend, you are indeed too young," Du Guiyun replied with a smile. Turning to face Ji Xian, an expression of amusement upon his face. Holding the celestial-grade formation disc, he, with his supreme cultivation, instantaneously summoned the momentum of mountains and rivers within 100,000 miles. The blue dragon, drawn by the formation, gradually approached Du Guiyun, eventually hovering behind him. "Oh, what does this mean?" Ji Xian inquired. "In comparison to me, you are still too inexperienced. Your youth renders you naive," Du Guiyun replied with a grin. He then gestured towards the formation disc in his hand and addressed Ji Xian, "Though you can suppress me, that is only under the circumstance that I have not exhausted all my means. Now I possess a remnant formation of celestial treasures. How can you oppose me? The situation has undeniably shifted in my favor. You are already within my grasp." As he spoke, he stroked his white beard, his face brimming with self-satisfaction. Although the imperial realm is formidable, it pales in comparison to the celestial beings of millions of years past. Today, victory is assured. "Oh," Ji Xian nodded, then declared, "I have suddenly changed my mind." Du Guiyun raised an eyebrow slightly. "You should have changed your mind long ago. Surrender your essence willingly. I have complete confidence in your lineage, but I might consider sparing a few of your disciples." Ji Xian shook his head, saying, "I believe you misunderstand, old fellow. What I mean by changing my mind is that I shall leave you not a single complete corpse. Today, you shall face total annihilation." "Bold words. I shall personally take your life." Du Guiyun glared, summoning the might of mountains and rivers, and swung his hand to strike at Ji Xian. Ji Xian rose from his gourd, leisurely sipping wine. Ah, satisfying. He waved his hand, and a river of sword intent emerged from the void, surging forward like a tidal wave. The great river rolled forth, divine waters extending for billions of miles, resembling a colossal blue dragon winding through the sky. Be still, Ji Xian commanded lightly, as the rules of the heavenly path manifested, and a magnificent ancient palace appeared, radiating golden divine light, striking forward like a golden cliff. Boom. In an instant, the celestial formation shattered, the already damaged array crumbling into dust scattered across the ground. How is this possible? Du Guyun was aghast. What was this river of sword intent that could even withstand the rules of the celestial path? In his youth, he had only witnessed his master contemplating the sword path within it, and after all these years, his understanding remained scant. Fool. Celestial beings have emerged from the 9 heavens and 10 earths. How could your mere remnant formation compare to the rules of the heavenly path? Truly, you have regressed with age. Ji Xian teased. Du Guyun opened his mouth to curse, but suddenly sensed a disturbance behind him. Roar. A ferocious tiger's roar emanated from behind. As the true spirit of the white tiger tore through the blue dragon and soared forth, Du Guyun was struck head-on by the force of the roar, swept up by a violent wind and violently slammed against a sacred mountain. Puff! He spat out a mouthful of black blood, attempting to rise, only to discover that all his limbs had been rendered useless. After scanning with his consciousness, Du Guyun sighed. His organs had been shattered, his bones broken, and even his sea of consciousness bore cracks. What on earth is this creature that could inflict such damage with a single blow? Confounded. He lifted his head to gaze forward, but upon seeing the white tiger true spirit hovering in the air, his pupils contracted sharply, and he exclaimed in shock, Master? Chapter 223. Pointing to the celestial ancient amidst the mountains, the earth shattered, splitting open like a spider's web. Bottomless chasms extended in all directions. Thick dragon chi spiraled from the depths, reaching toward the heavens, surpassing the clouds. The white tiger true spirit stood in the sky like a towering mountain, exuding a formidable presence, the aura of slaughter radiating outward in all directions. Though he was merely a phantom, it still instilled a sense of trepidation. How could this be possible? Dong Guyun, supporting his hunched form, summoned every ounce of strength to rise. The corpse of the Sword Emperor had been interred deep underground 1,000,000 years prior, sacrificed to activate the celestial dragon vein beneath. It was merely a soulless shell, logically. It should have been absorbed by the dragon vein long ago. How could it possibly give rise to a true spirit of the white tiger? Truly, this was diabolical. Even in death, would it not release me? Dong Guyun cursed vehemently. To outsiders, a disciple cursing his master seemed a grave act of rebellion. Yet for him, it had long become a familiar occurrence. In his youth, Dong Guyun possessed extraordinary talent, but his prideful nature and penchant for nitpicking often led him into trouble, resulting in the Sword Emperor allowing his fellow disciples to temper his arrogance. Everyone experiences youthful folly. He harbored resentment towards the Sword Emperor, believing he was deliberately targeting him. Thus, when Dong Guyun approached the threshold of becoming an emperor, he was beset by inner demons, delaying his ascension. As his lifespan waned, desperation took hold, driving him to fervently seek the opportunity for ascension. Ultimately, the Sword Emperor, dragging his injured form, repelled the myriad emperors of the Nether Mountain in the uncertain sea, granting him a chance. Secretly communicating with the Nether Mountain, he acquired a forbidden technique that accelerated the proliferation of dark matter within the Sword Emperor. The Sword Emperor fell, and he seized the opportunity bestowed by the Nether Mountain, achieving the path of the Emperor. After spitting a mouthful of blood, he sat down once more, contemplating his subsequent escape plan. Meanwhile, Ji Xian observed the white tiger deity before him with keen insight. The Emperor's true spirit, alas, was on the verge of dissipating. He mused. After an emperor's demise, remnants of their spirit linger in the world, representing a fragment of their will, used to convey certain affairs or guide future generations on the path to enlightenment. With a soft growl, the white tiger slowly opened its eyes. Even as a mere specter, the golden irises emanated a fervent divine light, making it hard to fathom just how powerful it had been in life. It gazed at Ji Xian and spoke. Benefactor. We meet again. Benefactor? Ji Xian was taken aback. Had they met before? How do you know me? Where have we encountered one another? He inquired. The white tiger spirit replied, Xiangu. Ji Xian's mind jolted, recalling the time-warped realm he had encountered when meeting Xiong. It was undoubtedly Xiangu. He brushed aside the peculiar term of endearment and continued his inquiry. What transpired there? Remarkably, the white tiger suddenly opened its mouth to utter a string of incomprehensible syllables, as if something were deliberately obstructing it from recounting that past. It was merely a remnant spirit, devoid of complete memory, and greatly influenced by profound causality, Ji Xian murmured. His chaotic eye seemed capable of piercing through time itself, witnessing the myriad threads of causality intertwining between them, one of which was Qiong. Never mind. Ji Xian ceased his questioning of the white tiger and instead released Qiong. Upon seeing the Sword Emperor, her delicate form trembled involuntarily, tears streaming down her cheeks. Filled with melancholy, his relationship with the Sword Emperor was not one of mere master and servant. The Sword Emperor had personally forged her and nurtured her growth. Resembling more a father figure to her, Qiong hesitated, unable to utter a single word. Such is the nature of humanity. In moments of longing, countless words flow through the heart, yet when faced with the beloved, not a syllable escapes the lips. Moreover, after such a long separation, divided by realms, you are still alive. That is delightful, the white tiger spirit expressed with profound relief. Then continued, take your benefactor to the ancient immortal realm and the heavenly sword palace. Locate the dark gate and fulfill my final wish. No immortal must be allowed to enter this realm. Indeed, Qiong nodded, wiping away her tears with her flowing sleeves. Subsequently, the white tiger spirit turned its gaze to the distance, inquiring, is that the new generation of Sword Kings? Ji Xian activated the system panel and summoned Ling Yun. Pay your respects to the master. As Ling Yun appeared, he immediately knelt before Ji Xian and subsequently stood obediently behind him, saying nothing but gazing curiously at the white tiger. It seems that the darkness at the end of the heavenly sword palace has been vanquished. Benefactor, you have taken on a fine disciple. The white tiger observed Ling Yun's robust figure, reminiscent of his younger self. He then shifted his attention to the distant figure of Dugu Yun. A piercing gaze swept over Dugu Yun, causing him to shiver, as though plunged into an icy abyss. The white tiger spirit's gaze lingered on Dugu Yun for but a moment before diverting. Disappointment clouded his thoughts regarding his former chief disciple. Alas, it is my fault for having been too involved. With that, the white tiger extended a claw, projecting a beam of divine light into Ling Yun's brow. Suddenly, Ling Yun felt an arcane scripture surge into his consciousness. Upon discerning its content, his pupils contracted, and he exclaimed, the Sword King Scripture. This is a genuine celestial cultivation method. The white tiger remarked, this is the most harmonious practice for the Sword King physique. Take it and train diligently. Ling Yun instantly recognized the identity of the being before him and intended to kneel in reverence, but the white tiger halted him. You owe your reverence not to me, but to your master. Without him, there would be no Sword King physique. Without him, I would still be a mere cat, catching butterflies and fish. Without him, there would be no past splendor. His divine might transcends time, embodying eternity. As he spoke, the white tiger's gaze shifted back to Ji Xian. Benefactor, the emergence of the royal physique signifies the sealing of that dark gate, does it not? Ultimately, it relies upon you. I, as the heavenly emperor, have proven to be rather ineffectual, the white tiger spirit remarked, self-deprecatingly. To Ji Xian's astonishment, the white tiger spirit knelt before him. Ji Xian trembled slightly. Moved by the gesture, he was taken aback by the sword emperor's action. Every emperor is typically characterized by pride and arrogance, preferring execution to submission. Yet here was the sword emperor, once the most formidable being, kneeling before him. However, in the next moment, Ji Xian realized that this was not an act of submission, but rather a pure expression of gratitude. In the distance, Dugu Yun looked on in utter shock. He knelt. He could hardly believe the scene before his eyes. How could the once mighty celestial emperor kneel so easily? Dugu Yun was filled with rage. Why did Ji Xian have such audacity? Why did he show such servility to an outsider while being so harsh towards me? You, the sword emperor, are merely a beast that has escaped from the ancient realm. He straightened his battered form and let out a mournful howl to the heavens, consumed with bitterness. With such exceptional talent, why did he find himself in this predicament? Suddenly, blood burst forth from Dugu Yun's chest, his heart, a recently mended organ, shattered anew. Meanwhile, the body of the white tiger's true spirit began to fade. My benefactor, I must depart. If I am reborn, I shall seek you out. Xiao Qiong, stay close to our benefactor. With these final words, the ethereal form of the white tiger disintegrated into countless particles, scattering into the wind. Ji Xian gazed at the drifting motes, bewildered. What had he done? How did the sword emperor recognize him? Why did his sword mark appear on the Excalibur at the edge of the star realm? It seemed that all signs pointed back to that chaotic era of ancient immortality. As the shimmering particles danced in the air, Qiong felt a sense of disorientation. No, it was not yet over. Ji Xian's gaze turned to the frail figure of the old man at the foot of the mountain, his eyes glinting with murderous intent. Chapter 224. Decapitation of Dugu Yun. At the edge of a cliff, Dugu Yun was meditating to heal his wounds. Previously, he had discerned that Ji Xian had sealed this place with a grand formation, making escape impossible in his severely injured state. Secretly, he was reaching out to two allies for assistance, not in hopes of slaying Ji Xian, but merely to survive and flee. Huh, do you still dare to heal? Do you truly believe you have a chance at life? A thunderous voice echoed from the horizon, accompanied by an enormous chaotic hand. Crash! A deafening clap of thunder resounded as the chaotic force swept over Dugu Yun like a colossal war chariot. The hand blotted out the sky, obliterating the towering mountain behind Dugu Yun, leaving only a vast chasm in its wake. Gasp! Dugu Yun was engulfed by a storm of sand, coughing up earth as he struggled for breath, ultimately emerging with his lower half erased, his tattered clothes and once white hair now coated in gray. The once proud emperor was now laid bare like a wretched dog at the edge of the sandy pit. Ji Xian, how dare you? His resentment remained unyielding. The sword emperor had confined him for a lifetime, yet he had knelt before Ji Xian. Why? Old fool, still chattering as your end draws near. Ji Xian leaped from the sky, summoning the embodiment of heaven and earth. A colossal foot descended from the clouds, pressing down upon Duguian like a mountain. Boom. The earth trembled, sand and dust surged outward like waves, forming a massive pit below. Duguian was relentlessly crushed beneath, his upper body shattered. An aged head sinking into the sand, utterly humiliated. Ji Xian reverted to his true form and descended into the abyss. Beneath the disarray of gray hair, Duguian's piercing eyes glared fiercely at Ji Xian. I may not be able to defeat you, but I concede. But what gives you the right to earn the Sword Emperor's recognition? I toiled so hard yet. His eyes widened in fury, his mind spiraling into chaos as he uttered a plethora of incoherent words, resembling a madman. Do you even deserve it? Ji Xian stepped forward, firmly placing his foot on the man's head, admonishing, who is the Sword Emperor? He single-handedly battled dark entities, guarding the cosmic fringes for 1,000,000 years. He sacrificed his life to protect this world, only to be betrayed by you, his closest confidant. What right do you have to mention him? At that moment, Ji Xian recalled the fierce battles he had fought across the cosmos, a surge of indignation igniting within him, fostering a sense of empathy. He increased the pressure, and instantly, numerous fissures appeared on Du Guyun's shattered skull. You cannot kill me. I want you dead. Du Guyun spat out a black box, hurtling it towards Ji Xian's brow with lethal intent. Ji Xian's gaze turned icy, his eyes transforming into a dichotomy of black and white, and the light emitted from his eyes morphed into a divine sword that struck forth. With a resounding crack, the box, forged from supreme materials, shattered instantly. Yet a mass of dark substance erupted forth, exuding a chilling aura. Dark matter. As Ji Xian felt the dark substance up close, a cold shiver raced from his heels to the crown of his head. This was an exceedingly perilous proximity, and all transpired in an instant. Come forth. In that moment, Ji Xian invoked the principles of time, a skill he had gleaned from the celestial body of reincarnation through his divine vision. In an instant, everything around him slowed. The swirling sands and debris descended at a languid pace, even coming to a standstill. 3 celestial artifacts surged from Ji Xian's brow, radiating celestial light that obliterated the dark matter. All of this transpired in the blink of an eye, leaving even Du Guyun bewildered. To him, it felt as if an incomprehensibly powerful force had annihilated the dark matter, the specific actions eluding his comprehension. How is this possible? Du Guyun's mind reeled, utterly unaware of how Ji Xian had reacted. You shall perish. Ji Xian intensified his force, brutally crushing Du Guyun's skull, a torrent of brain matter exploding forth. The scorching divine blood searing the earth to a charred gray. A miniature world erupted from Du Guyun's mind, and with a flick of Ji Xian's finger, the black-browed Taoist tumbled out. His form was in tatters, clearly having endured severe torment. What are you doing here? Ji Xian, unfamiliar with the schemes between the black and white-browed Taoists, was taken aback by his sudden appearance. The black-browed Taoist, prostrate at Ji Xian's feet, cried out, Senior, the spirit sword mountain is gone. My brother and I have lost our home. Everything is lost. I cannot accept this. What transpired? Ji Xian inquired. A quasi-emperor ravaged the spirit sword mountain. I was powerless to stop it. The black-browed Taoist lamented, pounding the ground in deep regret. Ji Xian pondered for a moment, then waved his hand, dispatching several silver-armored knights to the spirit sword mountain. We shall save as many as we can. This was beyond our expectations. He told the black-browed Taoist. Thank you, Senior, the black-browed Taoist uttered before collapsing into unconsciousness. It is time to conclude this. Ji Xian brushed off his robes, preparing to depart. Suddenly, the void split open with a tremendous rift, from which a silver hand emerged, reaching toward the shattered remnants of Du Guyun's head, forcefully inhaling a wisp of lingering soul. I dare anyone to try? Upon sensing the anomaly, Ji Xian reacted instantly, unleashing a powerful punch. The ground trembled as the clash of imperial figures triggered violent fluctuations of energy beneath, causing the hills and mountains above to collapse and crash down toward Ji Xian. Begone! With a single resounding cry, he shattered the collapsing mountains, and the clouds a myriad of miles high were obliterated, exploding into wisps of white smoke. How audacious to snatch from my grasp. You must be tired of living. Ji Xian stood amidst the crater, his golden aura surging. Red divine light radiating outward, an immense fury enveloping him. Just moments ago, apart from the silver hand, he sensed a familiar presence. The purple mist emperor. The void swiftly closed, and the 2 figures immediately fled. No one escapes from my grasp. Ji Xian's hair whipped wildly in the wind as he summoned all his strength, furious at this provocation. In an instant, several celestial artifacts flew forth from the void. Ji Xian forcefully slashed forward, tearing open the closing void tunnel. With the chaotic step beneath his feet, he plunged into the void tunnel. Quickly, Ji Xian caught up with the 2 fleeing figures. Do you wish to perish alongside your theft? A creature enveloped in silver light sped ahead, clutching the still-fading remnant of Du Guyun's soul. Turning back, he implored Ji Xian, Friend, let us spare each other. You may destroy the sword pavilion, but you cannot slay Du Guyun. Furiously, Ji Xian retorted, "Who do you think you are? Die." He summoned the Starry Dragon Spear, a powerful celestial artifact. Kill. Ji Xian swung the spear with force, unleashing a silver radiance that surged forward. "I shall obstruct you." The Purple Mist Emperor darted forth, conjuring a towering pagoda to hinder Ji Xian, buying time for the silver-clad creature to escape. The pagoda soared skyward, rapidly magnifying, shattering the void tunnel, and pressing down upon Ji Xian. "You are unworthy." Ji Xian cast forth the Kongtong seal, shattering the pagoda with a mere glance. The severing immortal sword flew forth autonomously, decapitating the Purple Mist Emperor. With a flash of divine light, the Purple Mist Emperor transformed into a wisp of divine essence, revealing himself to be merely an avatar. Ji Xian disregarded this, focusing solely on eliminating Du Guyun's lingering soul. The silver-enshrouded creature hurled forth a treasure staff, rupturing the void to create turbulence in an attempt to hinder Ji Xian. "You shall not take him today." Ji Xian retracted several celestial artifacts into his palm, channeling secret power to shoot forth a beam of celestial light. Whoosh! The celestial light pierced through the entire void tunnel, illuminating the dark expanse and swiftly reaching behind the silver creature. "What is this? Such a profound essence of celestial laws." The silver creature gasped, compelled to relinquish Du Guyun and evade the celestial beam. Unlike the Purple Mist Emperor, he had come in his true form. Should he be struck, he would undoubtedly suffer severe injury or even death. "Xian Emperor, I shall not let you go unpunished." The silver glimmering entity uttered a final phrase before making its swift escape. "You may come as you wish, regardless of your overwhelming might. The fate of Du Guyun will inevitably be yours." Ji Xian replied with an air of dominance. He dismissed the silver entity, allowing it to flee, and drew his sword to cleave through the lingering soul. With a swift strike, the remnant spirit was severed, eliciting a scream from Du Guyun. "You truly are relentless." Ji Xian retorted, "Does feigning death serve any purpose? You shall meet your end here today. You cannot kill me." Du Guyun, gripped by fear, realized he possessed no combat prowess left. A mere brush with Ji Xian's sword light would spell his doom. Nonsense. There is no one in this world whom Ji Xian cannot slay, nor any deed beyond my reach. You mustn't. In the end, Ji Xian executed a piercing strike, unleashing celestial brilliance that utterly obliterated Du Guyun within the void. Thus fell the master of the Sword Pavilion, the sovereign of the Great Tao. Chapter 225. The Battle Unabated. The orphan of ruins in the sky. Torrents of blood rained down, staining the desolate earth. The fall of the emperor invoked a collective lament from heaven and earth alike. Ji Xian stood upon a crumbling city wall, surveying the vast expanse of mountains and rivers below. Towering peaks, boundless plains, crystalline lakes, and rolling hills had all vanished, leaving behind a landscape of sunken depressions. The crimson sun, hanging low in the horizon, cast golden rays upon the ground, further accentuating the devastation. The rain continued unabated. After a considerable time, several quasi-emperors from Xianzhou arrived with their forces. Upon witnessing the devastation at the outer gate of Jinzhou, they were taken aback. The battle between emperors was of such staggering magnitude that it surpassed the comprehension and gaze of ordinary beings. The shattered landscape bore witness to the remnants of imperial laws, transforming the area into a veritable forbidden zone. For millennia to come, not a blade of grass would thrive here. "Press on. My battle has concluded, but yours has not," Ji Xian stated, turning his back. The outer gate of Jinzhou was one of 3 barriers. Beyond it lay the inner gate and the sword pavilion itself. The inner gate was the stronghold of various holy lands. This war should have progressed at a measured pace. Yet Du Guyun's arrogance and disdain led him to believe he could vanquish Ji Xian, ultimately resulting in his own demise at the front gate. Had he steadfastly defended the sword pavilion's inner gate, utilizing the holy lands as a shield and deploying the great celestial array, Xianzhou would have faced great difficulty in breaching Jinzhou. Now, circumstances had shifted. With Du Guyun's death, Jinzhou was all but secured within Ji Xian's grasp. Merely a matter of time. However, he decided not to take further action, feeling somewhat fatigued. Valiant Valkyrie. Present. From the void, the Valkyrie emerged. Lead our forces to assault the inner gate, subjugating any who yield and leaving no room for resistance. I shall rest for a time. With that, Ji Xian made his way towards the celestial dragon vein. The spiritual essence here was abundant, rivaling that of the Taoist sect's celestial vein. Ji Xian intended to devote himself to profound cultivation, aiming to break through to the supreme realm. Yes, the Valkyrie turned to depart, her crimson robe trailing gracefully behind her. Ji Xian approached the edge of a precipice and leaped down. Below, the celestial essence had transformed into a vast ocean. Ji Xian floated atop a colossal rock, retracting all his imposing presence, and began to absorb the dragon vein's spiritual energy. Just as Ji Xian anticipated, the inner gate of the sword pavilion would prove exceedingly difficult to breach. Here, there exist 5 or 6 imperial formations, each level presenting formidable challenges, far surpassing those of the previous stages. The sacred sites directly under the jurisdiction of the sword province number in the dozens. each with a history that stretches back to the era of the Sword Emperor, rich in heritage and unparalleled in esteem. Even if an emperor were to arrive, conquering them within a short span would be far from guaranteed. They have endured numerous cataclysms, demonstrating remarkable resilience and employing myriad strategies to force the Xian province army into retreat. Fortunately, the Valkyrie is present here, having, over the course of decades, employed thunderous tactics to breach several barriers and eliminate nearly 10 quasi-eternal forces. At Lingjin Mountain, several colossal corpses are firmly impaled upon the mountainside by long swords, still exuding faint traces of life, indicating they have only recently perished. These are the quasi-emperors under Dugu Yun, all vanquished by the arriving silver-armored knights. On another side, half of the mountainside has been sheared away. The main sect of Lingjian stands upon this holy mountain, yet its palatial structures have now all collapsed. Several quasi-emperors have clashed here, their divine blood staining the earth crimson. The passing soldiers pause to behold this miraculous sight, lingering momentarily in awe before hastily rejoining their ranks to continue the battle. At the foot of the mountain lies a small city spanning 10,000 miles. The black-browed Taoist strolls along the streets, surveying the collapsed buildings and ruins with a somber expression. "It is all my fault. I was too hasty," he lamented. The white-browed Taoist stepped forward to offer comfort, saying, "Junior brother, do not blame yourself. 1/5 of the cultivators and common folk still survive. Had we remained under the command of the great Emperor Dugu, we might not have even retained that fraction." The black-browed Taoist nodded, choosing to say no more. Following Dugu Yun ultimately led to their sect being hollowed out and forsaken. At that point, Lingjian Mountain would naturally be devoured by external forces. This time, they owe their survival to the silver-armored knights. Otherwise, Lingjian Mountain would have likely faced annihilation. Suddenly, a figure soared from the horizon. Two esteemed elders. Ling Yun descended to the ground, calling out to them. "Young friendling, what brings you here?" They inquired, turning to face him. "This is a message from my master," Ling Yun said, producing 2 small boxes from his bosom and offering them to the two. Their expressions turned to confusion as they accepted the boxes and opened them, discovering 2 embodiments of sword intent within. "This is," the black and white-browed Taoists exclaimed, their breaths quickening. They reverently lifted the sword intents, cradling them as if they were treasures. "Thank you, Xian Emperor," they said, bowing solemnly towards the direction of the previous barrier. Ling Yun conveyed, "My master instructed me to relay that these 2 sword intents are sufficient for your enlightenment. Whether you attain the status of emperor depends solely on your own capabilities." The two understood and bowed in acknowledgement. They had witnessed the formidable prowess of this young man and dared not assume any airs of seniority. Subsequently, they continued to wander the ruins, searching for surviving cultivators. Suddenly, from the distant ruins, the sound of a baby's cries pierced the air. A child. The black and white-browed Taoists exchanged glances and hurried towards the source. In a corner, a baby lay swaddled, trapped beneath 2 shards of stone. The white-browed Taoist removed the stone and gently cradled the infant. With a kind expression, he said, "Good child, do not cry. Let grandfather take a look at you." Yet, the baby's wails persisted. The black-browed Taoist chuckled. "Master brother, your wrinkled visage has frightened the child. Matters like this are better left to me." The white-browed Taoist shot him a glare and handed the baby over. "Hee, little one, let Grandpa Black hold you. Grandpa White is no good." The black-browed Taoist accepted the baby with a smile, only to be met with even louder cries, accompanied by a few heavy coughs from the infant. The two were momentarily at a loss. Having cultivated for tens of thousands of years without ever marrying, they were utterly unprepared for such a situation. At this juncture, Ling Yun approached. "Oh, this child," he exclaimed, his eyes widening as he observed the crying infant in the arms of the black-browed Taoist, as if he had discerned something significant. "What is the matter, young friendling? Have you ever been married and raised a child?" The black-browed Taoist inquired eagerly, wishing to thrust the baby into Ling Yun's embrace. "I have never raised a child, but I do have a snake," Ling Yun replied, producing a small, pitch-black serpent from his sleeve, which was indeed the one given to him by Ji Xian from the Fire Nation's Jade Mine. "Blast! Why didn't you say so sooner? Quickly, take it away and don't frighten the child." The black-browed Taoist shielded the infant's view with his sleeve. "His constitution is rather unique. Let me take a look," Ling Yun said as he put away the snake and stepped forward. Possessing the Sword King physique, his perception of the sword was exceptionally keen. Extending his large, dark hand, he gently grasped the baby's arm, and at that moment, the infant ceased crying. Both the black and white-browed Taoists were taken aback. Why did the baby stop crying upon Ling Yun's touch? Could it be that raising snakes endowed one with nurturing skills? They passed the child to Ling Yun, and indeed, the infant immediately quieted down and yawned, appearing drowsy. "Ah, what is this?" Ling Yun unwrapped the swaddling cloth and discovered a silver longevity lock. Blowing away the dust, he saw 2 crooked characters etched upon it. Wang Lu. Is this his name? Ling Yun wondered aloud, glancing at the longevity lock with a hint of confusion. The black-browed Taoist stepped forward and explained, "This is a longevity lock, also known as a name lock, given by the parents upon the birth of the child, symbolizing a wish for a long life. Unfortunately, It seems his parents are no longer around. Ling Yun nodded, gently stroking the boy in his arms. The infant was indeed a boy, already sprouting a tuft of short golden hair. The white-browed Taoist felt overwhelmed with the sudden addition of a child who would take care of him. The front line was in turmoil, and no one could spare the time. Upon hearing this, Ling Yun did not hesitate. This child, I shall raise him. He possesses the sword Tao's sacred body, and we are bound by fate. Our meeting today is surely destined. The white-browed Taoist took a deep breath, suppressing his elation. A sword Tao's sacred body is a rare gift. Barring unforeseen circumstances, he would have the chance to ascend to the Emperor realm. Throughout history, achieving the status of Emperor has been arduous, with countless individuals stymied solely by their innate talents. Possessing a sacred body provides the most fundamental prerequisite. However, Ling Xiaoyu, do you truly possess the ability to soothe children? Have you not remained unmarried? The black-browed Taoist inquired, puzzled. Ling Yun replied, it matters not. I have raised snakes before. The black and white-browed Taoist was even more bewildered, standing there with a dazed expression. What connection could there possibly be between raising snakes and nurturing children? After a long pause, the black-browed Taoist finally spoke. Brother, it seems that raising snakes may indeed be beneficial. This young Wang Lu appears remarkably docile in Ling Xiaoyu's embrace, suggesting he genuinely likes him. The white-browed Taoist could only acquiesce. Meanwhile, both men secretly lamented that they too must raise a brood of snake offspring to accumulate experience for future parenthood. On the front lines, a cataclysmic battle raged on. A century had passed since Ji Xian entered seclusion, and the female martial deity made her move, single-handedly cleaving through city after city with her crimson sword. The forces of the Sword Pavilion suffered a crushing defeat, every city within their stronghold laid to waste, and the remnants of the holy factions retreated to the last bastion of the Sword Pavilion, their final sanctuary. They amalgamated two imperial formations to seal off that region, stubbornly holding their ground. Over the course of 100 years, the front line stretched across millions of miles. From the outer stronghold to the main Sword Pavilion, city after city fell, leaving behind a landscape of smoldering ruins, shattered warriors, and decaying corpses. For a century, the flames of war wreaked havoc across Jianzhou, causing untold suffering to its inhabitants. News of the impending fall of the Sword Pavilion spread, inciting the small factions under its banner across neighboring states to stir restlessly, eager to plunge into Jianzhou and claim their share. In days gone by, the Sword Pavilion loomed over them like a colossal dragon, suffocating them under its weight, as the holy factions were compelled to offer vast resources as tribute, depleting their reserves. Now, with the death of the great Emperor Dugu, the Sword Pavilion stood as a mere shadow of its former self, its might waning, awaiting disintegration. When the dragon was alive, it dominated the seas, forcing all smaller creatures to submit. Yet upon its demise, all beings would rise to seize its treasures and even partake of its flesh. All of this stemmed from the dragon's overwhelming strength and brutality. Therefore, Ji Xian's decision to exempt the people from taxation for a millennium upon his emergence was indeed sagacious. In the nascent days of Xianzhou, its foundations were still weak. Excessively oppressing the factions beneath it would hinder long-term growth. Thousands of small factions united their forces, charging toward Jianzhou with fervor. Yet upon arrival, they discovered a formidable female martial deity guarding the area who would annihilate anyone who dared to approach. Thus, they devolved into infighting. A century and a half into Ji Xian's seclusion, even more external forces entered the fray. They harvested resources from these smaller factions while keeping a watchful eye on the internal dynamics of Jianzhou. During this period, some dared to test the waters, but the outcome was fatal. The female martial deity was simply too powerful, dispatching over a dozen quasi-emperors with a single sword strike, inflicting considerable pain upon them. Under the pressure exerted by this divine being, the holy factions had no choice but to temporarily retreat, scavenging resources from the smaller factions on the periphery. 200 years into Ji Xian's seclusion, the flames of war across the 3,000 states expanded further, engulfing dozens of regions. The ravages of war have engulfed this ancient land entirely, as the human race, demonic beasts, and barbarians engage in a chaotic melee that turns the heavens upside down and shrouds the sun and moon in darkness. Aside from the territory of the Ji family and Xian province, there remains little that can be deemed a sanctuary. It is in this tumultuous year that the Sword Pavilion's defenses were breached. Under the strategic guidance of Ying Zheng, all operations within have been progressing in an orderly fashion. What Ji Xian entrusted to him was the principle of subjugation rather than conquest. 250 years after Ji Xian entered seclusion, the forces surrounding the Sword Pavilion have all succumbed. During this time, a new emperor emerged from the flames of war, successfully overcoming the trials of the nine heavens and taking the title of Yang Hui, the Supreme Lord of Fire, proclaiming his mastery of the fiery path. Upon ascending to the throne, he united the surrounding armies, extending his grasp towards the heart of Jian province, aiming to seize resources from the Dao sect's forces. Within the grand hall of the Sword Pavilion, the leaders of the Holy Lands gathered to deliberate on this pressing matter. The Xian Emperor is absent, and an emperor threatens us. What shall we do? Should we engage in battle? We must fight. We cannot allow our momentum to falter. However, Reaching a decision is fraught with difficulty. Although we have the Valkyrie among us, the repercussions of inciting an imperial war are beyond what we cultivators can bear. Some expressed their concerns. At that moment, the black-browed Taoist rose to address Ing Zheng above, acting sect master, shall we engage in battle or not? The others awaited Ing Zheng's response, for he was appointed by the Xian Emperor himself. Though his cultivation was merely at the Saint Lord level, none dared to underestimate him. Clad in a black and gold dragon robe, Ing Zheng stood tall, exuding the aura of a commanding leader. With a sweeping gesture, he declared with authority, "We shall indeed engage in battle. Why should we cower before a newly ascended emperor? Everyone, rally your spirits. Though the Tao sect has been established for less than 5 centuries, our foundation surpasses that of any ordinary holy land. Fight. Engage with all your might. Let your prowess shine. Let blood stain the 3,000 provinces." In the spirit vein, Ji Xian absorbed spiritual energy to a critical threshold. For 300 years, he sat in meditation, refining his own Tao and bringing the last of his Fashang to perfection. Although in seclusion, the 5-colored sparrow flitted in and out, relaying all that transpired in the outside world. A new emperor dares to boast that no one recognizes me after merely a few hundred years of absence? It appears my bloodied hands shall soon sever another emperor's reign, Ji Xian murmured. The 5-colored sparrow nestled in Ji Xian's embrace, chirping in a youthful tone. Its vibrant plumage shimmered as it playfully sought his affection. "You little rascal, rise. I am about to undergo tribulation." Ji Xian gently stroked its colorful tail before retrieving the Hanyuan celestial mirror to envelop it within. "Come," he urged, flying forth from the depths to address the sky. Boom. Thunderous clouds gathered, and lightning dragons emerged. The supreme thunder tribulation descends. Chapter 227. The supreme realm in the skies. Dark clouds roiled with the intensity of a raging fire. The winds howled furiously, and amidst the vast sea of thunder, a silhouette flickered with brilliance. Ji Xian allowed the robust bolts of lightning to strike him, focused solely on channeling his sacred power to breach the barriers of the supreme realm. In the realm of the 10,000 Paths divine tree, a vast vitality surged forth from the profound womb of its roots, climbing against the spine. To transcend into the supreme realm required an immense amount of spiritual energy. Ji Xian extended his hands, swiftly forming seals to conjure a miniature imperial formation that incessantly absorbed spiritual energy from a radius of 100,000 miles. Boom. This action stirred the tribulation above the thunderous sea, and after a clap of thunder, the might of the tribulation intensified. The white robes adorning Ji Xian instantly shattered, revealing his bare, radiant form as he reveled in the baptism of lightning in the void. 3 years later, the ferocity of the lightning waned slightly. Ji Xian sat cross-legged in the emptiness, his precious body shimmering, emanating a pearlescent divine light. Every pore of his being exuded threads of lightning, his internal power saturated, reaching a critical threshold. Break! A resounding shout echoed as the mountains and earth trembled, unleashing a powerful force throughout the realm. Ji Xian clasped his palms together, a muffled sound emanating from within, followed by an overwhelming surge of supreme power bursting forth, enveloping the surroundings. Eventually, the supreme power coalesced into a circular domain, unique to the Supreme Emperor. Different cultivators possessed distinct functionalities within their domains. For instance, Duge Yun's domain gathered sword shadows, while the Purple Mist Emperor's released purple energy to amplify attacks. Currently, Ji Xian's supreme domain was merely a nascent form, its specific abilities awaiting his own imbuement. What path should I cultivate? He sat amidst the thunderous sea, momentarily lost in thought. He had delved into numerous paths, and this supreme domain, unlike the Dharma forms, could only manifest one. Ah, speaking of domains, do I not possess a battle god domain? Ji Xian recalled the battle god domain he conjured while replicating Sun Huang's essence. Instantly, a domain imbued with the aura of deities and demons was summoned. This divine realm was somewhat superfluous to him. It was an augmentative artifact. Yet he had yet to encounter anyone formidable enough to necessitate its full utilization. Within the divine realm, one side depicted majestic mountains and earth, replete with deities, while the other presented a bizarre landscape of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood, where demons and monsters thrived, exuding two starkly contrasting energies. The two realms were not entirely isolated but rather intertwined and mutually nurturing, with divine power and demonic energy occasionally transforming into one another. Upon observing this, Ji Xian experienced a moment of inspiration. If I forged the supreme domain with Taiji, would it not encompass all the paths within me? As the saying goes, Taiji generates all things. With a clap of his palms, he began to experiment, using the battle god domain as a reference, combining chaos and creation, the deities of the sun and moon, and the sword intent of life and death to forge the supreme domain as the duality of yin and yang. Time flew by, and 350 years had elapsed since Ji Xian entered seclusion. Although the sword pavilion had been besieged, it occasionally suffered disturbances from external foes. Within a century, over 300 conflicts had erupted. The Taoist army was imbued with unyielding fighting spirit, transforming its soldiers into fearless warriors, valiantly battling the enemy. Despite significant losses, they steadfastly defended the Sword Pavilion's stronghold. During this period, even the great emperors made multiple attempts to test the waters, yet the Valkyrie, with her thunderous might, repeatedly repelled those who dared to invade, though the enemy's ambitions were not entirely extinguished. The 3,000 provinces, as a part of the vast expanse of the 9 heavens and 10 earths, may be numerous, yet truly habitable lands comprise less than 1/10 of that number. Excluding the forbidden zones occupied by ancient races, there are scarcely over 100 provinces suitable for the existence of living beings. Most of these 100 provinces are mired in the flames of war, enduring calamities time and again, with all factions partaking in the plunder of various cultivation resources and fortunes. The Great Calamity began a mere millennium ago, and the world has undergone tumultuous transformations. Amidst the wild and untamed land, a humble cart slowly trundles forward. An aged horse, with weary eyes, pulls the cart through the ruins and mountains of corpses. This is a road fraught with terror, yet it is also relatively safe. The cart is filled with straw and dilapidated furniture, and a gaunt man, weary in demeanor, drives it from the front. Father, mother has fainted, she can hardly hold on. A young man pulls back the cart's curtain, his voice choked with tears. Xiao Dou's expression darkens, the creases on his face deepening. He relinquishes the reins and turns to enter the cart. Kneeling before his frail wife, he lets 2 streams of hot tears cascade down his cheeks and sighs deeply. What is it, father? The youth asks anxiously about his mother. This is Xiao Dou's 3rd child. The previous son and daughter, lacking any cultivation talent, have already perished from the depletion of their lifespans. Your mother's time has come. Xiao Dou trembles as he gently covers his wife's face with a white cloth. Let us bury her here. Leaving her on the cart will attract those barbarous beasts that thrive on decay. Father, I cannot bear it. The youth cries, clutching the old woman's hand in anguish. Xiao Dou admonishes him sternly. Hurry. The youth reluctantly complies. Xiao Dou, suppressing his sorrow, turns away and lets out a heavy sigh. He finds himself utterly powerless. The world outside is perilous, and caution is imperative. Moreover, he has come to a profound realization. In this grand era, the lives of mortals are as insignificant as weeds, utterly unworthy of existence. Previously, they had settled in Xinguang City, living joyously as a family, basking in happiness and ease. However, since the city was razed by the armies of other factions, they have been forced into a life of exile. Now, he can no longer count the years that have passed. Throughout their journey, he has witnessed the great cultivators of the sacred realms wreaking havoc, committing atrocities without restraint, stirring within him a profound sense of despair. Are the immortals not human? With such formidable powers, why do they still contend? Can the sacred lands not coexist in harmony? What wrong have the common folk committed? Must they simply await their demise? After a bout of lamentation, he relinquishes further contemplation, for some matters are beyond the grasp of a mere mortal like him. In this vast expanse, he feels woefully insignificant. At present, his sole concern is for his young son. The boy, barely 100 years old, with his nascent golden core cultivation, surely cannot survive alone. As a father, he must find a path for his son and secure a place for him to cultivate. Otherwise, a century hence, the scene of a white-haired elder bidding farewell to a youth with raven locks may once again unfold. Yet, I too have not attained sanctity, my days are numbered. And devoid of support, where can I venture? Suddenly, a figure clad in white flashed through my mind. Memories of the past in Xinguang City and the ancient mines resurfaced. Yes, indeed. My breath quickened, and my once dim eyes sparkled with newfound brilliance, as though I had unearthed the ultimate answer. Father, it has been buried well. The youth approached. Let us be on our way. Father, this does not appear to be the direction we just took. Where are we headed? To Xianzhou. Chapter 228. The Sunlight Sovereign at the Sword Pavilion Stronghold. The Sunlight Sovereign marched forth with a formidable army, laying siege to the city. In the void, the Sunlight Sovereign, with flowing red hair cascading to his waist, stood at the edge of the heavens. Half of his form was engulfed by the sea of clouds, his feet resting upon an endless ocean of flames, while 18 volcanoes rumbled ominously behind him, as if on the verge of eruption. He gazed upon the majestic walls of the Sword Pavilion with satisfaction, nodding approvingly. Truly, the Sword Pavilion is a treasure trove, as evidenced by the imperial formations inscribed upon its walls. After the ascension of the Dugu Emperor, he left behind this precious site, most fitting for the establishment of a doctrine. Having fought numerous factions over the past few centuries, the newly ascended emperor harbored intentions to establish a sect. Once this final treasure trove is conquered, all conditions will be met. I have heard that the Xian Emperor has made an appearance here. Could it be that he too is interested in this struggle for power? The Sunlight Sovereign mused. He had secluded himself for millennia, only recently emerging as an emperor, and had heard tales of this legendary figure. Should they cross paths, a battle would not be out of the question. With this thought, the Sunlight Sovereign found himself unexpectedly eager. In the past 10 millennia, only 2 new emperors had emerged. Who would be the foremost figure of this new era? Ing Zheng and others stood atop the city walls, gazing at the imposing silhouette on the horizon, their faces etched with gravity. The new emperor had indeed arrived. The aura of the path of fire painted half the sky crimson, merely standing there. The emperor emanated such might from thousands of miles away that it compelled all to kneel in submission. The Sunlight Sovereign projected his divine voice. Guardians, open the city gates. Do not force this emperor to take action. Ing Zheng replied. Esteemed elder, your approach seems rather inappropriate. The sword pavilion has already been seized by my Dao sect. Are you attempting to seize it by force? The Sunlight Sovereign cast a glance at Ing Zheng, a mere minor cultivator in the Saint Lord realm. What right do you have to converse with this emperor? That single glance plunged Ing Zheng into a frigid abyss. A chilling sense of impending doom surging from his feet to the crown of his head. Yet, he did not falter, gritting his teeth. He bore the oppressive aura and stepped forward. I am a disciple of the Xian Emperor and the acting leader of the Dao sect. The Sunlight Sovereign chuckled softly. A minor cultivator in the Saint Lord realm as a leader? What a pathetic facade. The Dao sect is truly lacking. I once held a glimmer of hope for the Xian Emperor, but it seems he is nothing remarkable. The fortunes of this grand era are beyond your grasp. Allow me to take charge, haha. His words dripped with arrogance, disregarding Ji Xian entirely. He has diligently cultivated for over 200,000 years to attain the status of an emperor. With such innate talent, what is there to fear? Ing Zheng's face turned a shade of iron, and he responded with an air of displeasure. I am afraid I cannot comply. This door shall remain closed. Very well. Very well. Very well. Yang Hui clapped his hands. It is indeed rare for a cultivator of the sacred realm to defy the emperor's decree. Your decision will inevitably lead to the demise of you all. I intend to instill in you the lesson that imperial commands must not be disobeyed. With that, he extended his right hand, fingers splayed, as a river of flames converged, sweeping across the heavens towards the city gates. Before the fiery river arrived, the entire city began to tremble violently. Ing Zheng and the others felt as though they were being scorched. Even though the emperor's formation was already in motion, it still emanated such formidable power. This Yang Hui truly is terrifying. Boom. The azure heavens were momentarily replaced by a sea of fire, cascading downwards in overwhelming torrents. The Valkyrie emerged from the void, her battle attire rustling fiercely, her expression filled with fury. Do you think this divine being does not exist? In her grasp, a blood-red sword unleashed countless beams of crimson light, exuding a murderous aura that soared into the sky, slicing through the sea of flames. With a thunderous crash, the flames were completely dispersed, and the phantoms of countless soldiers engaged in battle materialized overhead, reminiscent of an ancient battlefield awakening. Is that a fully realized deity? Yang Hui's expression turned to one of astonishment. Could it be that this individual was the one who previously shattered his imperial decree, causing his forces to falter? Such a powerful presence. Merely in terms of aura, it was not inferior to my own. Yang Hui scrutinized the Valkyrie, momentarily subdued by her fierce bloodlust. Yet, he remained untroubled. Deities are inherently tied to the fate of their sovereigns, and the more formidable their combat prowess, the shorter their time in physical form. Only those deities conferred by the former celestial emperor could maintain their vitality and exist for extended periods. Although this deity presented a challenge, if he could stall for time, he could still prevail. I advise you to depart swiftly. Your master is about to emerge, and when that time comes, it will be too late for you to escape. The Valkyrie threatened, her sword held high. She did not wish to engage in battle here, for it could endanger the young masters behind her. Although the emperor's array was present, without the emperor himself to command it, its original might could not be fully realized. Oh, is that truly the case? Yang Hui's interest was piqued. He had been worried about Ji Xian's absence. Such a substantial piece of the pie as the sword pavilion could not be allowed for Ji Xian to claim entirely. Having just ascended to the rank of emperor, he was currently in the spotlight, drawing attention from all sides. It was likely that Ji Xian would prefer to avoid trouble. If he extended an invitation for a battle of emperors, perhaps Ji Xian would temporarily concede some resources. In this grand era, everyone was focused on self-preservation. It was better to avoid unnecessary conflict, as no one was entirely unafraid of troubles. With this thought, Yang Hui waved his grand sleeve and proclaimed, "Let him come. I eagerly anticipate the confrontation between the two newly ascended emperors of the Ming Dao realm. The first thread of fortune in this great world shall ultimately be grasped by me." Boom. At that moment, from an unknown distance across the horizon, a golden Tai Chi circle descended, radiating with 7 colored rays of light, as a surge of supreme, divine power swept across the 8 directions. That is my master. Ling Yun on the city wall sensed this overwhelming force immediately. The Jian Gate lies a staggering 10 million miles from this location. And the formidable presence of my master has reached such a distant realm. Has he perhaps transcended his previous limitations? Ing Zheng's left eye transformed into the moon, while his right morphed into the sun, as he scrutinized the Taiji domain. At last, my master has emerged from his seclusion. Poor Linger stood still, finally releasing the tension that had gripped her. Ji Xian's prolonged meditation, spanning centuries, had been a source of great concern regarding life and death. Suddenly, a golden thunderclap erupted in the heavens as a figure, propelled by the golden Taiji circle, hurtled forth at an astonishing speed. His velocity was such that he appeared as a streak of lightning. In his wake, mountains crumbled, and the void was rent asunder by the divine thunder, creating massive fissures. In the blink of an eye, the figure arrived in this region, covering 10 million miles in mere moments. Ji Xian manifested, having donned a fresh set of garments. His hair still glistening with the colorful essence of the celestial dragon vein. A golden Taiji diagram materialized behind him, representing the supreme domain he had cultivated. The presence of the Xuandi Yanghui was subdued by this overwhelming force. He appeared not as an emperor of the Mingdao realm, but rather as an ancient sovereign. How could one possibly contend against such might? In this world, the concept of battling beyond one's rank scarcely exists. Even a minor realm can prove fatal, let alone the 2 or 3 major realms that separated him from Ji Xian. Without a moment's hesitation, he opened a void tunnel, uttering a hasty farewell before swiftly darting inside. How ironic it is that he spoke so boldly, yet upon my arrival, he faltered. Today, I shall see where you flee. The golden Taiji circle behind Ji Xian spun rapidly, a manifestation of all the great paths he had condensed within himself. With a mere gesture, a stream of golden supreme power surged forth, forcefully tearing open the closing void tunnel. A cry of despair escaped as Yang Hui tumbled out from the tunnel. Here I stand. Did you not wish to engage in a duel? Ji Xian strode forward, enveloped in golden divine light, his vitality soaring. Fresh from his retreat, the divine power within him had yet to dissipate, rendering him as fierce as an ancient beast, devoid of his previous ethereal demeanor. Xinyang Tiangong. Yang Hui attempted to activate his divine technique, summoning flames in retaliation, only to be astonished to find that all his flames were absorbed by Ji Xian, leaving no effect whatsoever. How could this be? Does such a body truly exist, one impervious to all methods? Panic-stricken, he hastily retreated, each step covering thousands of miles. Even if it meant abandoning his vast army, he sought to escape. Who could have foreseen that the divine technique he had spent hundreds of thousands of years refining would falter in its very first battle? Yet, no matter how he tried to evade, the golden divine light followed him relentlessly, refusing to be shaken off. I have arrived. Ji Xian's voice resonated, echoing like the harbinger of death. Yang Hui was seized as one would grasp a chick, firmly held by the nape of his neck. How can you possibly be a sovereign? Are you not merely a new emperor like myself? This is unjust. Let us battle on equal ground. Yang Hui gasped for breath, his face turning crimson as he shouted in defiance. Ji Xian coldly chuckled. My realm surpasses yours. That is my prowess. Your inferiority is simply a testament to your inadequacy. With that, he pressed his right hand against Yang Hui's forehead and forcefully tore upward, ripping off both the skull and hair. Instantly, a gruesome spray of brain matter and blood erupted, causing Yang Hui to bleed from his 7 orifices, and an unknown yellow liquid oozed from the corners of his mouth. A divine light shot forth from Ji Xian's brow, embedding itself in Yang Hui's sea of consciousness. Did you not wish to seize the sword pavilion? I shall ensure you remain there for eternity, transformed into an immortal puppet, a mere sword attendant. Chapter 229. Quelling the Black Ancient Sword Order in the Skies. Ji Xian stood upon the void, one hand grasping Yang Hui's severed head, while the other clutched his primordial flame. Yang Hui gazed at his bloodied head, his voice trembling as he uttered, How dare you kill me? He had only just ascended to the throne of the emperor. His ambitions remained unfulfilled. How could he resign himself to such a fate? Ji Xian shook his head. I never claimed I would kill you. I merely intend to forge you into a puppet. You cannot do this. An emperor cannot be humiliated in such a manner. End my life swiftly. Being turned into a puppet would mean being cast aside in the cycle of reincarnation, never to rise again. Ji Xian paid him no heed, drawing forth a sliver of transformative power from the golden Tai Chi circle, crafting an imperial-grade puppet-esque shell. He then ensnared Yang Hui's primordial spirit within his fingertip and inserted a finger into the puppet's chest cavity. No, you cannot do this, Yang Hui lamented, filled with intense resentment towards Ji Xian. How could a dignified emperor be reduced to a puppet? It was a humiliation, a lifelong humiliation. Do not scream. I am not slaughtering livestock, Ji Xian retorted, increasing the force exerted by his fingertip, while a golden sword light shot forth from his brow, striking Yang Hui's primordial spirit. The ritual to forge an imperial-grade puppet was an intricate endeavor, particularly when forcibly merging a living soul into the construct. Any hint of resistance would prolong the process. Struck by the sword of his primordial spirit, Yang Hui became considerably subdued, ceasing his struggles. He pleaded, I beg you, in my life, do not subject me to this torment. Once transformed into a puppet, I will have no chance of resurgence. I have been an emperor for over 200,000 years, with a long lifespan ahead. In this grand era, there may yet be hope for transcendence. I implore you, kill me, Ji Xian replied. I have no desire to stain my hands with blood so soon. I just slaughtered Du Gu Yun before my retreat, and now I am to kill you afterward? How unfortunate. What? Du Gu the Great was slain by you? Was he not said to have transcended? Yang Hui exclaimed in shock. The battle at the Sword Pavilion had raged for centuries, and the world believed Du Gu the Great had passed due to the exhaustion of his lifespan, which drew countless cultivators to the fray. Who could have anticipated he was murdered? Impossible. You lie. Although you and he were both supreme beings, There is a vast chasm between you. He received the true teachings of the ancient Sword Emperor. As he spoke, Yang Hui's gaze gradually dimmed, losing the vitality that defines life. Transitioning into a mere puppet. His primordial spirit sustained severe damage, his mind clouded, and he began to utter nonsensical ramblings. No, how could you possibly be a supreme being? Just a few hundred years have passed. How could such a person exist? Haha. Many old souls from the outside world are observing me. They will surely come to my rescue. Haha. I, Yang Hui, am the foremost figure of the new era. Mother and father, I miss you. I am hungry. As Ji Xian refines the soul, he contemplates. It seems that the decision to establish the Great Sealing Array was indeed the right one. The rapid ascendance of the Dao sect must have provoked the envy of countless cultivators, and many hidden adversaries lurk in the shadows. The true cause of the demise of Dugu Yun can certainly draw them out. 3 months later, the sword servant's refinement was complete. The esteemed Yang Hui has been entirely erased from the annals of the world. Now, Yang Hui exists merely as a puppet sword servant. I pay my respects to my master. The robust sword servant bowed deeply, honoring Ji Xian. Quite commendable. Ji Xian nodded, thoroughly satisfied. This puppet possesses the ability to grow stronger alongside its master. However, Ji Xian does not intend to keep it by his side. He plans to reorganize the sword pavilion, reintegrating it into the domain of the Dao sect. This puppet shall remain here to guard the sword pavilion. At that moment, Ing Zheng flew over from the ground, reporting to Ji Xian, Master, the spoils have been prepared. Please take a look. Very well. The master and disciple descended from the clouds, heading towards the sword pavilion. Amidst the mountains, a pavilion stands tall among the clouds, shrouded in mist, appearing both elusive and majestic. This pavilion, built against the mountain, is shaped like a sword, towering and piercing the heavens. The name of the sword pavilion is derived from its form, and it is said to be the retreat of the Sword Emperor. Surrounding the pavilion are 108 floating islands, creating a celestial atmosphere akin to stars encircling the moon. Ji Xian landed before the sword pavilion, gazing up at the lofty structure, and the sword intent within him surged. Indeed, it is a land of treasures. With a sweeping motion of his sleeve, he entered. On the topmost level of the pavilion lies a miniature world, where mountains and rivers intertwine, and the expanse is vast. Across the boundless terrain, various treasures and resources are piled high, forming small mountain-like heaps, stretching beyond the horizon. The sheer number left Ji Xian momentarily speechless. Dugu Yun truly amassed substantial resources to prolong his life. After a rough tally, there are approximately 10 imperial-grade treasures, including weapons and formation discs, with countless other resources. However, what captured his attention most was a black sword token. This sword spirit lay neglected in a corner. Had Ji Xian not activated his divine sight, he might have overlooked it. The sword token, merely the length of a finger, bore numerous marks from sharp weapons and was covered in dust, suggesting it was an artifact from ancient times. System, what is this item? Ji Xian inquired. This is the Order of the Sword Ancestor. There are a total of 12 in the world, and this is one of them, albeit in a damaged state. Sword Ancestor, who is that? A celestial being? An ancestor is a being above celestial beings, a true master of the great Tao across the myriad realms. How could such a treasure end up in the 9 heavens and 10 earths? Ji Xian was perplexed. This world lacks even celestial beings. How could there be ancestors? The world where the host resides was originally part of the celestial domain, which was destroyed in a cataclysm billions of years ago, scattering into countless fragments, thus separating the 9 heavens and 10 earths and descending into this universe. So it is. Ji Xian etched this matter into his memory, sheathing the sword order as he made his way outside. At that moment, Ing Zheng rushed over, breathless. Master, how are we to transport all these treasures? In his hands, he held a lengthy scroll, detailing the various internal affairs of the sword pavilion post-battle, a staggering number of items that left him bewildered. Transport? Why must we transport them? Ji Xian replied with a smile, stepping out of this small world. The Dao sect currently requires a plethora of resources. Shall we not move them? Ing Zheng queried. Perplexed. Certainly not. From now on, this place will be considered one of the Dao sect's forces. How about it? Would you like to become the pavilion master? Ji Xian clapped Ing Zheng on the shoulder, assuming an air of bestowing a great responsibility. Perhaps it's best if I remain a disciple. Managing the internal affairs of the Dao sect is already overwhelming. The scale of this sword pavilion is no less daunting, Ing Zheng admitted, a hint of trepidation in his voice. Ji Xian chuckled. Indeed, it seems you have a heavy burden. I shall select another candidate. At that moment, the Valkyrie pushed open the door to the pavilion and entered. Master, external forces have arrived, claiming to represent the various emperors for negotiations. They are waiting in the Grand Hall on the first floor. Understood. Let us proceed. Chapter 230, Negotiation? Torment Valkyrie, who are these visitors? Ing Zheng inquired as they walked through the corridor of the sword pavilion. Young master, they are likely representatives from the imperial clans or royal families involved in the resource plunder surrounding the sword pavilion, the Valkyrie responded. They come with ill intentions, Ing Zheng remarked, stroking his chin, his expression turning grave. Similarly, Ji Xian surmised the ancient royal clan's purpose for their visit. They merely sought to extract a few morsels from him, intending to share in the spoils of the sword pavilion. However, their calculations seemed rather flawed. In the grand hall on the first floor, the envoys of the ancient royal clans stood at the forefront, brandishing a golden decree. The envoy, with flowing silver hair and a rigid countenance, was evidently not of the human race. Behind him, a throng of minor followers stood densely packed. With a flash of brilliance, Ji Xian materialized in the grand hall, striding directly toward the throne at the far end. Salutations to the Xian Emperor. The minor followers knelt in unison, bowing 3 times. While the envoy of the ancient royal clan stood stiffly, meeting Ji Xian's gaze without flinching. Oh, they bow to me, yet you do not? Ji Xian inquired from his throne, casually grasping a cup of tea prepared at his side, inhaling its aroma while never lowering his gaze to the individuals before him. However, he distinctly sensed the power emanating from the decree, akin to the silvery beings encountered in the void tunnel while seizing the remnants of Dong Guyun's soul. They were likely of the same origin. If that were the case, the outcome of the negotiations had already been predetermined. The envoy raised the golden decree, responding, I hold the imperial decree of the Saint Silver Ancient Emperor, as if personally established by the Ancient Emperor. According to protocol, we are not required to bow. How amusing. Ji Xian chuckled softly, tapping the lid of his teacup. In that fleeting moment of raised eyebrows, 2 golden beams of sword light shot forth from his eyes, striking the leg joints of the silver-haired envoy with a resounding crack. Ah! A scream erupted as silver blood sprayed 3 feet high. Both of his lower legs were severed in an instant, crashing against the stone pillars of the hall, causing him to lurch forward and kneel. His silver hair cascaded down, obscuring his face, rendering him utterly disheveled. The expressions of the small clans in the rear shifted dramatically, their hearts engulfed by a shadow of death, causing them to tremble uncontrollably. In this confrontation, the envoy was not to be slain. Did this emperor intend to shatter the ancient customs upheld through the ages? The silver-haired envoy gritted his teeth in pain, his body drenched in silver blood, while his severed legs gradually transformed into silver stone. He felt an overwhelming fury. Since time immemorial, imperial envoys had been treated with the highest honors. Yet here at the Sword Pavilion, not only was there no banquet, but the ancient clan's rituals were disregarded, resulting in the severing of his legs. However, he dared not display his emotions openly. Should he do so, even the ancient emperor could not save him. Jian Xian remained composed, his gaze fixed upon the teacup. The silver-haired envoy infused the decree with sacred power, causing the golden edict to rise slowly, suspended in the air. Dozens of silver characters manifested, eager to detach from the golden silk and reveal themselves. Before the decree's power could materialize, Jian Xian lightly tapped the ground, sending a stone flying with a sharp sound. The stone soared through the air, tearing the decree in two and striking the envoy's face with a resounding impact. The envoy was propelled backwards by the tremendous force, rolling several times on the ground before clumsily rising. A look of confusion etched across his face as he gazed at Jian Xian. What is the meaning of this? Xian Emperor? Jian Xian replied coldly. What I requested was for you to recite, not for the decree's imperial might to manifest on its own. Having said this, he took a delicate sip of tea, savoring it, his eyes slightly closed, awaiting the sound of the decree to commence. Ing Zheng stood nearby, utterly transfixed. How extraordinarily domineering. Although it was an imperial decree from the ancient emperor that required a peer-to-peer exchange of respect, his master had forcefully subdued the ancient clan's might, transforming it into a subordinate presenting to a sovereign. He felt as though his centuries of rulership had been in vain. The silver-haired envoy emitted a hoarse voice, blood trickling from his mouth as he picked up the torn decree, attempting to piece it together. This emperor, Saint Silver, has thus conveyed this decree to the Xian Emperor to discuss matters regarding the Sword Pavilion. A great era has arrived. All clans possess the freedom to vie for opportunities, and the Sword Pavilion has changed ownership, leading to a shift in circumstances. In my view, the minor forces outside the Sword Pavilion should be independent, allowing equitable division among all powers. Furthermore, I, Saint Silver, have a long-standing friendship with Taoist Du Guyun. In the past, he wronged me, and his death has left me uncompensated. Therefore, I assert that the treasures within the Sword Pavilion's treasury should be apportioned 3 parts to me as recompense, including imperial treasures. Just as the silver-haired envoy intended to continue, the golden decree spontaneously ignited, 5 colored flames appearing out of nowhere, rapidly consuming the silk of the decree. Boom! An explosion of imperial might erupted instantly, the silver characters immortal, revealing the divine authority of the Saint Silver Ancient Emperor, striving to break free and exert its dominance. Yet the 5-colored celestial fire, with its overwhelming might, swiftly reduced the silver characters to ash. Xian Emperor, what is the meaning of this? The silver-haired envoy murmured, staring at the blackened remnants of the silk in his hand. Jian Xian waved his hand dismissively, indifferent, and declared, enough. I only wish to hear this much. I unilaterally declare this decree void. As for the remaining unburned pieces of silk, take them back to wipe your behind. The silver-haired envoy, in a fit of rage, tore at his hair. His visage twisted in agony, nearly driven to the brink of insanity. The ancient imperial decree was compromised. It was clear he would not survive this ordeal. Rising to his feet, he pointed an accusatory finger at Ji Xian and bellowed, "Ji Xian, I curse you." But before he could utter his most heartfelt greeting, his entire being erupted, scattering into a multitude of shattered stones. The remaining cultivators from the minor clans were paralyzed with fear, collapsing onto the ground, gasping for breath. To be obliterated merely for uttering a true name. Was this the might of an emperor? "If you have no further business, you may take your leave," Ji Xian stated nonchalantly. "Oh, and please ensure to remove the debris. We wouldn't want to tarnish the sword pavilion's floor." He rose, brushing off his garments, preparing to turn away. The minor clan cultivators exchanged apprehensive glances, none daring to approach. At last, a red-clad cultivator stepped forward, trembling as he spoke. "Xian Emperor, may I inquire about the whereabouts of our esteemed young Hui Tianzuan? Has he been imprisoned by you?" "Not at all. He resides right here," Ji Xian replied, gesturing toward a corner. From the shadows emerged a towering sword attendant, clad in black armor, his formidable frame overshadowed by a gigantic black sword that dwarfed him. "Ancestor, how could you have become this way?" The red-clad cultivator fell to his knees, weeping bitterly, acutely aware that Yang Hui Tianzuan had lost all semblance of life, transformed into a mindless puppet. The clan members behind him also wept, drawing their swords in despair, crying out, "Ancestor, we shall accompany you." Then, with a flash of sword light, blood erupted, and severed heads tumbled to the ground. The red-clad cultivator, wishing to emulate their tragic fate, was halted by Ji Xian. "I have entrusted you with a task. Take this decree and disseminate it to all factions near the sword state." The red-haired cultivator resisted, attempting to draw his treasured sword for self-immolation, only to discover that his body was ensnared by a hidden power, no longer under his command. In that instant, Ji Xian's consciousness stirred, and a golden silk unfurled in the void. His gaze shifted, inscribing grand golden characters upon it. "I, the Emperor, Xian Emperor, hereby declare to all sacred lands, within 3 years, vacate the periphery of the sword pavilion's affiliated states. All plundered resources must be returned in full. Those who defy this edict shall face annihilation." Chapter 231. The Division of Supreme Realm Cultivation, Establishment of the Celestial Sword Pavilion. Upon the vast expanse of the wildlands, battles erupted in relentless succession, with myriad factions embroiled in the struggle for their destined fortunes. Amidst the mountains, the brilliance of spells radiated, and a kaleidoscope of phenomena unfolded. The overwhelming sanctity, piercing the heavens. This was the region surrounding the Sword Pavilion's affiliated states. With the news of Dugu Yun's demise and the breach of the Sword Pavilion spreading, chaos ensued, and all converged upon this territory. Eager to devour the remnants of a fallen titan, mountains of corpses and seas of blood swirled, the delicate ridges stained crimson. Suddenly, the fabric of the sky was torn asunder, blinding golden rays shooting forth like the dawn's first light. The vast imperial might surged like a tidal wave, overwhelming the realm. And all combatants were rendered speechless, turning their gazes toward that direction. There appeared a red-clad cultivator, striding forth with a golden decree, bathed in radiant light. His true visage concealed. "The Xian Emperor has issued a decree." The red-robed monk mechanically uttered a few words, after which the golden edict in his hand automatically took flight, unfurling like a scroll, revealing dozens of imperial characters. This edict, issued by the Emperor Xian, serves to announce to all sacred lands, within 3 years, all must withdraw from the peripheral territories of the Sword Pavilion. All plundered resources must be returned. Those who defy this decree shall face annihilation. The resounding divine voice echoed throughout the heavens and the earth, thick and profound, as if it had emerged from the primordial era, shaking the mountains with its reverberations. The assemblage of cultivators found themselves unable to lift their heads under the weight of that overwhelming power, compelled to passively listen to the edict. Why must the Emperor Xian interfere in this domain? This is the Sword Pavilion, not his to command. Could it be that he alone has dominion over the vast expanse of 3,000 states? Such thoughts churned in the hearts of many cultivators. Yet, this sentiment was not confined to one. It resonated as the collective voice of all. For a century, lives had been exchanged for opportunities, only to have them relinquished in an instant. No one could accept such an injustice. The golden edict lingered for 3 full days before finally tearing through the void and departing. A collective sigh of relief escaped the cultivators, yet the sense of intimidation left an unpleasant taste in their hearts. At last, one cultivator rose to address the assembly. "Fellow Taoists, let us not concern ourselves with him. The vastness of 3,000 states is filled with sects and intricate power dynamics. Even if we seize the resources of the Sword Pavilion, we can flee to distant territories. There are hundreds of thousands of us, and that being cannot possibly hunt us down one by one." This was a powerful quasi-emperor who had come in search of opportunities to attain the Tao of Emperor. His words struck the heavy drum in everyone's hearts, and soon, more cultivators rose in agreement, declaring their intent to continue seeking opportunities. Suddenly, the void was rent once more, and a bolt of golden lightning descended like a venomous serpent, instantly obliterating the speaker into ashes, leaving not even a trace of his body. A collective gasp echoed from the cultivators as they awakened from their fervor for battle and treasure. The might of an emperor was beyond their comprehension. Alas, so it must be, they lamented, feeling that all their efforts over the past century had been in vain. One by one, they turned toward the direction of the Sword Pavilion. Such occurrences were not isolated. Over the past 3 years, edicts had flown across numerous states, imposing their might and commanding the return of resources, compelling all to withdraw from the Sword Pavilion's territories. Not a single cultivator dared to resist. The influence of Emperor Xian and his forces flourished like the sun at its zenith, since he had openly declared his intentions. Those who opposed him would undoubtedly face dire consequences. At the Sword Pavilion, Ling Yun gazed at Ji Xian in bewilderment, then looked around to find all eyes upon him. Pointing to his own nose in astonishment, he exclaimed, "Me?" Ji Xian smiled and replied, "Indeed, the new pavilion master is you." In the corner, Ing Zheng exhaled deeply, a look of relief washing over him as if he had narrowly escaped disaster. He adjusted his black dragon robe and stepped forward, clasping his hands in respect to Ling Yun, saying, "Congratulations, Pavilion Master Ling." Fire Spirit and the other disciples along with the remaining cultivators also bowed in congratulations. "Congratulations, Pavilion Master Ling." Only a golden-haired youth shouted something different. "Son congratulates father." The crowd stared in confusion. Ji Xian looked incredulously at the golden-haired boy, then turned to Ling Yun on the platform, a smile curling at the corners of his mouth as he nodded in satisfaction. It seemed as if he were chiding Ling Yun. "You rascal, you possess quite the talent." The youth, appearing to be just over 10 years of age, had already attained the realm of spirit refinement. Ling Yun promptly intervened, delivering a playful slap to the boy's head. "Wang Lu, did I not instruct you to call me master? You are not my biological offspring, so why address me as father?" Wang Lu, cradling his forehead, replied with tearful eyes, "Father is father. You've always been my father since childhood. Moreover, I should be called Ling Lu." Ji Xian, witnessing this scene, could not suppress a chuckle. He approached and affectionately ruffled young Wang Lu's hair. "Does it still hurt?" Wang Lu wiped away his tears, gazing at Ji Xian's youthful visage, nodding like a chick pecking at rice. "Thank you, grandfather, it no longer hurts," Ji Xian remarked. This child cannot be retained. Nevertheless, he maintained a smile as he retrieved a tome of cultivation techniques from his robe. "This is a gift from your ancestor. Take it." Young Wang Lu accepted it and knelt in reverence. Beep. Host has gifted disciple Wang Lu a supreme-grade cultivation technique, triggering a return of 491 million times. Supreme Dao Diagram X1 obtain. Supreme Dao Diagram, a celestial-grade treasure for enlightenment, an exclusive artifact for cultivation in the Supreme Realm, capable of assisting the host in transcending the pinnacle of extreme paths. A diagram that aids in the cultivation of the Supreme Realm? Ji Xian briefly scanned the system's description, grasping the artifact's capabilities. The cultivation in the Supreme Realm is categorized into early, mid, late stages, the Great Dao, and the Extreme Dao. Each advancement in cultivation amplifies the Supreme Domain's power exponentially. The path to the Emperor Realm is exceedingly arduous, with each stage being equivalent to the cumulative sum of all realms beneath it. Ji Xian had spent several centuries achieving perfection in the Dharma Aspect Realm, and the difficulty of cultivating in the Supreme Realm is several times greater than that of the Dharma Aspect Realm. Hence, it is an infinitely protracted journey, possibly spanning a millennium or even 10,000 years. Subsequently, Ji Xian hosted a banquet within the Sword Pavilion to reward the valiant soldiers from the recent battle. "I hereby declare that the lineage of Ling Jian Mountain shall be incorporated into the Dao sect, becoming a direct external force of the sect. The Sword Pavilion will be integrated into the inner sect, governed by me, with Ling Yun at its helm." Upon hearing this proclamation, all the heads of the sect erupted in excitement. It is common knowledge that the Dao sect is divided into inner and outer sects, yet the specifics of these divisions are not widely understood. Ji Xian's declaration made it clear that the disciples under his command would be classified within the inner sect, while the sects that had rendered great service in the battle would be designated as outer sections. All prominent figures were aflame with enthusiasm. This signified that the disciples of the Sword Pavilion would receive direct attention from the Emperor, and Ling Jian Mountain would be privy to the resources of the Dao sect. Good heavens, Ling Jian Mountain has been recognized as a direct sect of the Dao sect. "We have always been merely an ancillary force," exclaimed an elderly headmaster. Indeed, Ling Jian Mountain has paid a hefty price and achieved remarkable merit. Without their prior efforts, we would have likely failed to breach the defenses, another headmaster mused, stroking his beard with envy gleaming in his eyes. The Taoist with black and white eyebrows rose to express gratitude to Ji Xian. "Thank you, Emperor. We shall surely serve the Dao sect with utmost loyalty." The two were profoundly exhilarated. The revival of Ling Jian Mountain was now within reach. The banquet continued for an extended period, and over the next 3 years, numerous cultivators arrived in succession to return resources, departing with expressions of discontent. The surrounding vassal states of Jianzhou were gradually reclaimed and brought under the aegis of the Dao sect. Subsequently, Ji Xian announced to the world the reorganization of the Sword Pavilion, appointing Ling Yun as its master, while the pavilion itself was renamed the Heavenly Sword Pavilion. Chapter 232. the stirring of the Ji clan. The Sword Pavilion, a force that had existed since the era of the Sword Emperor, thus faded into the annals of history. In its place rose the Heavenly Sword Pavilion under the Dao sect. The appointment of a cultivator at the Saint King level as the leader of an eternal power astounded practitioners from all realms. An entity deemed eternal typically had an emperor to preside over it, characterized by a fortune that spanned the ages. What merit or capability does a mere Saint King hold? Although he was personally promoted by the Xian Emperor, this leap seemed excessively ambitious. Could a cultivator named Lingyun truly command the respect of various formidable figures? Behind the scenes, many powerful factions expressed their skepticism, believing this young cultivator would inevitably falter. The Sword Pavilion concealed a dragon vein beneath its foundation, which he, with his current cultivation, could hardly stabilize. Some emperors boldly asserted that the Xian Emperor's decision to entrust the governance of 8 states to a fledgling cultivator was merely an opportunity for the sacred lands. They foresaw an inevitable breach in due time. The ancient monarch of the Holy Silver clan arrogantly proclaimed that once the Holy Silver Stone Spirit clan emerged, he would personally seize the Sword Pavilion and advance into the heart of Xianzhou. Few held optimism for this newly appointed master, especially after beheld his appearance, which led to ridicule. One cultivator jested, "I've delved into ancient mines for 300 years and have never encountered someone so dark." This quip brought laughter, eventually evolving into a widely recognized proverb throughout the 3,000 states of the cultivation world. The name Lingyun echoed across the realms, yet it was met solely with derision. However, soon after, a shocking revelation silenced those who had scoffed in secrecy. Lingyun possessed the long-lost Sword King physique. Yet many scholars remained doubtful, asserting that the Sword King physique had vanished from history and could never resurface. A lone cultivator ventured to Jianzhou to investigate, and indeed, he witnessed the majestic manifestation of the royal physique above the Sword Pavilion. It was unmistakably that very physique. It could not be a falsehood, remarked an ancient emperor who had awakened from an ancient coffin, having truly experienced that era. This manifestation was undoubtedly the Sword King physique. The populace erupted in excitement. Discussions abounded, and following a wave of mockery, the cultivation world of the 3,000 states was once again swept into a frenzy. The Sword King physique, which had oppressed all realms millions of years ago like a towering mountain, rendered all practitioners unable to lift their heads. Wherever the Sword Emperor tread, all cultivators bowed in reverence. During that epoch, one man and one sword traversed across the vast zones of life, vanquishing ancient monarchs of the Forbidden Lands who dared not claim superiority. Would the legend of the Sword King physique be revived in this lifetime? The tide of discourse shifted immediately. No one dared to mention Lingyun's appearance, as most were now focused on the potential heights the Sword King physique could reach in this era. Would he, like the Sword Emperor, ascend to become a celestial emperor? This was what everyone yearned to discern, yet simultaneously dreaded. Should a celestial emperor rise in this grand era, the developmental limits of the sacred lands would be constrained, diminishing even the chances of aspiring to become an emperor. In that moment, under the influence of such trepidation, a formidable emperor of the underworld launched an assault upon the Heavenly Sword Pavilion. On that day, a cataclysmic battle erupted, wherein a woman clad in light armor wielded a blood-red longsword, clashing with an ancient sovereign adorned with 16 wings. This fierce confrontation endured for several years, as imperial blood stained vast expanses of land, ultimately leading to the ancient emperor's panicked retreat, tearing through the void in his escape. The formidable prowess of the Valkyrie once again propelled the Heavenly Sword Pavilion to unprecedented heights. The populace realized the reason behind the Xian Emperor's audacity. He was shielded by a deity of remarkable prowess. Simultaneously, attention shifted to the Xiantian Dao sect, which had risen to prominence over the millennia. The Xian Emperor single-handedly contended against several emperors, establishing the Dao sect and solidifying its presence upon this land. Presently, the Dao sect claims dominion over 15 states, subtly rivaling the Ji family's supremacy across 3,000 states. With merely over 100 states suitable for habitation within the 3,000, the Dao sect's control of numerous states is indeed formidable. Following the demise of 2 emperors, the Ji family has descended into utter silence, their disciples scarcely seen even during external training. In contrast, the Dao sect flourishes, exhibiting a resplendent and vigorous scene. Speculation arose among the masses. Was the throne of the 3,000 states on the verge of transition? 50% of the cultivators expressed certainty, having witnessed the Dao sect's might firsthand, believing it would undoubtedly dominate the 3,000 states in the future. Amidst the external discourse, the Ji family offered no response, seemingly vanished from the world, sinking into prolonged silence. In the sacred hall of the ancient Ji family, the patriarch and numerous elders anxiously gazed upon a youthful figure seated before them, an exquisite boy, albeit with a pallid visage, his eyes slightly closed, emanating a faint aura of decay. Ji Changsheng, an unparalleled prodigy from 100,000 years past, the foremost of the 3 holy sons of the Ji family. The patriarch stepped forward, holding an ancient soul lamp, infusing it with sacred power, which he then released. Instantly, a tremendous pressure descended from the heavens, revealing the ethereal visage of an immortal. All present knelt in reverence, collectively proclaiming, "We pay homage to Ancestor Xianyuan." The immortal specter surveyed the assembly before casting its gaze upon the distant, obliterated sacred city, remarking, "It appears rather desolate." The patriarch approached, his voice quivering with sorrow. "Our Ji family has suffered the loss of 2 emperors." Ji Xuanyuan's expression shifted, a flicker of desolation crossing his eyes as he sighed. "It seems an anomaly has arisen in this era. The ultimate fate of the Ji family may not be favorable." He then turned his attention to the boy above, inquiring, "Is this child the suitable candidate you have discovered?" The patriarch nodded affirmatively. "Indeed, this child possesses the longevity physique, making him the foremost of the younger generation in 100,000 years." Ji Xianyuan acknowledged this, resigning himself to the situation. "My remaining soul is tenuous. Seizing his body would bear no fruit, nor do I wish to treat my descendants in such a manner. I shall coexist with him, personally guiding his cultivation. The remaining path must be traversed by the Ji family themselves. The dark age looms ominously, and the condition of the celestial realm is dire." Upon hearing the term dark upheaval, the elders in attendance trembled involuntarily. The turmoil of yesteryear had nearly fractured the universe encompassing the 9 heavens and 10 earths. "Esteemed ancestor, is the dark age truly upon us? Was it not said that cycles occur every 100 million years?" The family head inquired. Ji Xianyuan shook his head. "The transitions of great eras follow no discernible pattern. This age shall be far more bleak than our own. I have a foreboding that not only the Ji family, but even the realms of heaven and earth may not withstand this calamity. Unless what? Unless a heavenly emperor ascends to the Tao, governing the fates of heaven and earth, and suppressing those dark entities," Ji Xianyuan replied. Subsequently, the family head reported to Ji Xianyuan about Ji Xian's disruption of the Ji family and the matters concerning the heavenly emperor's palace, clarifying the ancestral rift with the family. Upon hearing this, Ji Xianyuan nodded. "It is well. Ultimately, it has not fallen into the hands of outsiders. Should we falter in the future, we may seek refuge with him." Having uttered these words, Ji Xianyuan gradually approached Ji Changsheng, swiftly entering his body. Chapter 233, Midstage of the Supreme Realm. By Lu Academy within the Celestial City, Ji Xian sat cross-legged atop a towering mountain, immersed in a state of enlightenment. Before him unfurled a supreme Tao map stretching hundreds of feet, intertwining myriad paths of rule, with the power of the Supreme surging and evolving continuously. The Supreme Realm represents the final stage of the human Tao. Upon perfecting this path, one may transcend to the next realm, symbolizing the practitioner's embarkation on the quest for immortality. Yet countless practitioners throughout history have been ensnared at this juncture, unable to touch the Tao of immortality. In the realms of heaven and earth, a Supreme Realm Emperor can already be deemed an apex existence, with very few emperors transcending this stage. This is the source of Du Gu Yun's arrogance. In the 3,000 provinces, those who could contend with him could be counted on one hand. It has been over 50 years since returning from the Sword Tower, and Ji Xian has spent decades in enlightenment, his cultivation advancing imperceptibly. "Too slow," he sighed, opening his eyes. System, check the disciple's cultivation levels. Retrieving panel, Horlinger, great perfection of the Holy Master Realm. Ling Yun, mid-stage of the Holy King Realm. Mo Yuling. Mo Yue, late stage of the Holy Master Realm. Ing Zheng, great perfection of the Holy Master Realm. Sun Huang, mid-stage of the Holy King Realm. Qing Qing, mid-stage of the Holy King Realm. The higher the cultivation, the slower the pace of advancement. "It is not just me. The disciple's progress has also decelerated," Ji Xian murmured. "Return it." Triggering a 542,000 times return, currently returning to mid-stage of the Supreme Realm. Boom. A murky force erupted from within the Xian Tai, surging upward and instantly breaching a minor threshold of the Supreme Realm. Ji Xian unleashed the Golden Taiji Circle, amplifying the supreme power several-fold. This is an immensely powerful domain, encompassing all the Tao Ji Xian has cultivated, endowed with various functions. As long as he remains within this domain, any strike can unleash a tenfold increase in its original power. Certainly, this effect derives from his integration of the Battle God domain. The astonishing amplification of this domain is evident from Ji Xian's ability to traverse millions of miles in a moment and to obliterate the equally formidable Yanghui Tianzuan with a single strike. At this moment, Ji Xian seemed to recall something and inquired of the system. "Isn't it strange that a return of over 5 million times only allows me to transcend a minor realm? Are you embezzling funds?" His urgency to elevate his cultivation was palpable. In his previous calculations, he had sensed an unprecedented calamity looming in the future. If he could not hasten his advancement, how could he safeguard the Xiantian Dao sect and protect his still youthful disciples? Upon hearing this, the system began to protest. "Host, do you truly doubt our bond?" It retorted. "Come now, have you considered how many realms separate you from those disciples? Such a return is quite commendable. Is there truly a supreme emperor under a millennium in age in this world?" Ji Xian nodded, acknowledging the truth of the system's words. He was still in his youth and, compared to other emperors, was but an infant. Attaining such a level was indeed noteworthy. Nevertheless, he decided to venture outside. for there were many matters that required his attention. He could not remain in seclusion indefinitely. He stowed away the supreme Tao diagram and the Bodhi seed in his hand. Rising to descend the mountain, the celestial city lay desolate, and he gently parted the clouds, landing atop Jinyan Mountain, slowly making his way towards the outer sect. It was summer, and Jinyan Mountain was enveloped in a verdant forest, adorned with various fruits that jingled as they hung from the treetops. Near the pond, the sounds of cicadas and frogs filled the air incessantly. As Ji Xian reached the mountainside, he beheld two white jade cheelants frolicking amidst the clouds, tossing something back and forth. Faint curses echoed in the air. "Hey, you two little beasts, take it easy. I am the Howling Sky Wolf God. Woof woof woof." The Howling Sky Dog cursed vehemently, being tossed about like a ball by the two cheelants, feeling dizzy from the playful jostling. Upon Ji Xian's appearance, the cheelants immediately ceased their antics, obediently crouching on the clouds, tongues lolling out as they gazed at him, seemingly greeting him. Ji Xian nodded and walked past them. In the high skies, the Howling Sky Dog, having not been caught, plummeted through the clouds, tumbling down the cliff. The height was staggering. What the hell? After playing for so long, you just threw me off. Damn it. The curses reverberated among the mountains, echoing into the distance. A cascading waterfall originated from the mountainside, flowing like a hanging galaxy down to the foot of the mountain. At the base, the river god was guiding a group of disciples from the White Deer Academy in fishing, aptly named imparting knowledge and teaching. Ji Xian had entrusted him with the disciples, and this was all he could teach. "Hey, you there. Your line wrapping technique is all wrong. If you hook something, the line will snap." The river god, clad in gray, stepped forward to correct a disciple's method of wrapping the line. "Your casting technique has issues as well." He busied himself, moving back and forth. The headmaster of the White Deer Academy stood to the side, observing the lined-up disciples with a puzzled expression. Fishing Canadian cultivation? This is unheard of. Yet the gray-clad man before him exuded a faint divine radiance with every gesture. He surmised that this must be yet another hidden expert, feeling too shy to approach. Suddenly, his peripheral vision caught sight of a figure clad in white. "I pay my respects to the Xuandi." In an instant, he realized, hastily kneeling in that direction. The river deity also sensed it and performed a respectful gesture. Ji Xian nodded slightly, his hands clasped behind his back, exuding the demeanor of a seasoned leader. "Your Majesty, I have something to convey," spoke the teacher from the White Deer Academy. "Oh, what is it?" Ji Xian paused, standing beside him. "In the past, I mentioned the mutual exchange of disciples between the Dao sect and the White Deer Academy. Now, after the passage of several centuries, with the Academy's reopening, it is time for the Dao sect disciples to set forth. I have already informed a few of them, and they shall depart in a few days. Rest assured, Your Majesty, the White Deer Academy is under the protection of a great emperor, providing the finest educational conditions in the realms. And we shall not neglect the disciples of the Dao sect." The teacher spoke with trepidation, striving to articulate his words perfectly, for the presence before him exuded an overwhelming pressure that compelled caution. "Very well, proceed according to your arrangements," Ji Xian declared before gracefully departing. Watching Ji Xian's retreating figure, the teacher of the White Deer Academy exhaled deeply, wiping the sweat from his brow as he rose to his feet. Within the outer courtyard, several disciples had packed their belongings, chattering animatedly amongst themselves. Ji Xian entered, and they all stepped forward to pay their respects. "Once you depart, focus on your cultivation and refrain from causing trouble. Of course, if any issues arise, do not fear, for your master is here." Ji Xian offered a few words of advice. After exchanging farewells, the disciples took their leave. Before departing, Mo Yuling and Mo Yue each planted a kiss on Ji Xian's cheek. In the courtyard, Ji Xian stood alone, gazing at the expansive square. A gentle breeze wafted from behind, tousling his hair and brushing against his cheek, eliciting a chill within. It felt desolate. He understood that the departure of his disciples might mean a separation lasting 1,000 or 10,000 years, and he would not see them for a long time. Crack! Crack! At that moment, the sound of munching echoed from the nearby thicket. Ji Xian turned his gaze to find Sun Huang reclining on a tree, indulging in fruit. Ji Xian strolled over, and Sun Huang jumped down, offering a salute. "Why aren't you heading to the White Deer Academy?" Ji Xian inquired. Sun Huang wiped his mouth with his hand and replied, "Master, I am a creature of nature, accustomed to freedom. I cannot endure the rigid rules of the Academy. They stifle my cultivation." Ji Xian nodded in understanding and then said, "Very well, accompany me on an outing." "Where to?" "To the Indeterminate Divine Sea." Chapter 234. Return to the Fire Dragon Tomb. The Indeterminate Divine Sea. Sun Huang was taken aback, then seemed to recall something, hesitantly saying, "Master, you don't mean to visit the Kunping Emperor stationed in the North Sea, do you?" "Indeed." "Hiss," Sun Huang gasped, retracting his neck and saying, "Master, must I go?" Ji Xian chuckled. "What is it that frightens you? Did he not personally gift you a weapon?" Sun Huang nodded, producing the black gold iron rod and tremblingly confessing, "To be honest, the matter of the gift was a ruse. I stole this rod." Ji Xian covered his forehead with a sigh, rendered utterly speechless. This monkey is truly exceptional, daring enough to pilfer even the emperor's belongings. What else is beyond its reach? There is no negotiation. Today, you must accompany your master. Without hesitation, Ji Xian stepped forward, seizing the monkey by the collar and dragging it out. As they ventured beyond the sect, a deep pit on the ground caught Ji Xian's attention. Moments ago, the howling celestial dog had plummeted from the sky, creating a gaping hole upon impact. At this moment, it lay inverted within, stars swirling before its eyes. Ji Xian approached and playfully kicked the dog's rear. Who is it? My rear is still aching. The dog barked. Before it could fully comprehend, Ji Xian grasped the back of its neck, yanking the entire creature from the earth. What are you doing? Upon recognizing Ji Xian's visage, the howling celestial dog instantly regained its senses. For centuries, whenever it succumbed to nightmares, Ji Xian had haunted its dreams, becoming an inescapable shadow in its canine existence. How humiliating. Here it was, a supreme emperor, a being striving for the heavens, yet reduced to being subdued by Ji Xian's single hand. Spending its days playing ball with two foolish Qilins. Go meet your old friend, the Kunping Emperor, Ji Xian remarked with a smile. The Kunping Emperor? Absolutely not. I refuse to go. The celestial dog vehemently protested, recalling the year it had sought the Kunping Emperor for retribution, nearly facing a near-fatal defeat. It would not be persuaded this time. This is not a discussion but a notification, Ji Xian stated, then tore through the void, heading toward the shores of the undefined divine sea. In the land of the 10,000 beasts, centuries ago, the trials of the underworld mountain had nearly obliterated the various clans. Under the leadership of the imperial steed, the demon race had gradually increased in number over hundreds of years, becoming integral to infrastructure and coastal defense. A man, a dog, and a monkey appeared upon this land. Along the coast, the fire dragon tomb was where Ji Xian had acquired the sacred fire of the Taiyin and accepted his disciple, Huowang. The area stretched over 100,000 miles of desolate desert, with only a robust mountain range at its center, lying like a great dragon. Since Ji Xian's battle with the howling celestial wolf god, this region had transformed into a forbidden ground, seldom ventured by anyone. Upon returning after centuries, Ji Xian discovered something he had previously overlooked. The entire fire dragon tomb was shrouded in a black aura of calamity, a manifestation of supreme divine power. At that time, Ji Xian's cultivation was too meager to truly comprehend this essence. Yinghua, he murmured, recalling the term. Previously, cultivators from all races had been lured here by Yinghua, seeking the fabled secret treasure, only to be harvested by a blood dragon, becoming its sustenance. However, Ji Xian had discerned that the calamity referenced by Yinghua was not the blood dragon, but something else entirely. After much contemplation, he retrieved the small imperial coffin he had once seized. Displayed before him, the coffin, crafted from ancient bronze, emanated an aura of antiquity. Its surface was adorned with engravings of ancient deities and demons, clawing and howling, intermittently releasing demonic energy. The imperial coffin. Upon sighting it, the howling celestial dog lunged forward, pressing its entire body against it and sniffing the air eagerly. Indeed, this is the coffin. I must take it back to the underworld mountain. The howling celestial dog felt an exhilarating rush within, as the lost imperial coffin had finally been located. Mimicking the form of the human race, it stood upright on its hind legs, extending its paw to grasp a corner of the coffin, and with a sudden force, attempted to lift it. After a prolonged struggle, it remained immobile. Damn it! It cursed vehemently, realizing its overwhelming excitement at the sight of the coffin was futile. The howling celestial dog was reminded of its magical powers being sealed by Ji Xian. At present, it was merely an ordinary dog. Enough of this fruitless effort. You might as well divulge what you know, Ji Xian said with a smile, lifting the howling celestial dog by its tail. I won't say a word. Not even under duress. The howling celestial dog crossed its arms defiantly, hanging upside down in a rather comical fashion. Very well, tonight we shall feast on dog meat. Ji Xian threatened, summoning a flicker of five-colored celestial fire beneath the dog, commencing a roasting process. Ouch! Hot, hot, hot. All right, I'll talk. Within mere moments, the howling celestial dog surrendered. Although its physical form was of imperial caliber, merely approaching the five-colored celestial fire felt as if its head would split apart. Ji Xian set it down on the ground. Speak. Cough, cough. The howling celestial dog cleared its throat and began to narrate. The coffin originally exists in two halves. This is the smaller of the two, while the other one was designated for the burial of the Emperor of Fengdu. This imperial coffin traversed the boundless divine sea to reach this shore in order to absorb the lifeblood of sentient beings and the fortune of the world. Preparing for the resurrection of the Emperor of Fengdu, the fire dragon tomb was precisely brought over from the other side millions of years ago for that very purpose. It operates under the guise of the comet, also aligning with the grand scheme of the underworld mountain. Who could have anticipated that you would emerge and throw everything into disarray? The howling celestial dog grumbled. Oh, so you're implying my actions have thwarted the revival of the Emperor of Fengdu? Ji Xian inquired. Upon hearing this, the howling celestial dog displayed a contemptuous expression and remarked, Don't flatter yourself. This is merely one of many methods. The resurrection of immortals is exceedingly arduous. How could the underworld mountain lack contingencies? Of course, I am oblivious to those matters. My sole responsibility is this imperial coffin. After absorbing this information, Ji Xian began to ponder. In the Great Calamity, it was not only ancient beings that were stirring. Could it be that the once mighty immortals were also on the verge of reemergence? Given the movements from the underworld mountain, it was likely that prominent clans such as the Ji and Jiang families would not remain idle. They might even seek to connect with the lingering souls of the deceased immortals, allowing them to descend upon their kin. Everything was accelerating. Perhaps my predictions hold a kernel of truth, Ji Xian mused. The emergence of ancient clans, the rise of the underworld mountain, the dark portal at the edge of the star realm, and the clues to the resurrection of immortals. These events signal a warning. Perhaps the dark calamity I speculate is indeed not far off. Although the current calamity is chaotic, it has not yet reached the point of apocalyptic destruction. After vanquishing the Sword Pavilion, the fortune of the Xuantiando sect has now reached a tin stake within the Heavenly Tao. Yet, how much smoother will the path ahead be? All of this awaits Ji Xian's exploration. As the sect leader, he bore far more considerations than his disciples and fellow cultivators. He buried these thoughts deep within his heart, choosing not to dwell on them further, and strode towards the shores of the boundless divine sea. Chapter 235, Haizhou 3000 Prefectures, Haizhou. Adjacent to the native lands of Xianzhou lies an optimal region for traversing the tumultuous waters of the indeterminate divine sea. This chaotic domain is fraught with disarray and uncertainty, often beset by colossal sea monsters and marauding pirates. One moment of inattention could lead one into ancient secret realms or uncharted cosmic territories. This perilous nature is why Ji Xian opted against departing from the coastal areas of Huanyao Prefecture. In Haizhou, there exists a quaint town known as Haiqing. Perched above the waves and composed of numerous ports, bustling with a myriad of grand vessels setting sail. At this moment, the dawn breaks gently. Ji Xian and Sun Huang are seated within a tea house, savoring delectable dishes while observing the throngs of people at the port. Most of the individuals frequenting this locale are cultivators seeking opportunities in the indeterminate divine sea, alongside mortals drawn by the scent of commerce, eager to establish their shops. Ji Xian has cloaked his aura and subtly altered his appearance, rendering him indistinguishable from an ordinary person. He relishes the earthly pleasures around him, feeling a wave of contentment wash over him. The tedium of several centuries spent in seclusion has instilled within him a newfound yearning for the mundane joys of life. The Xiaotian dog, tethered to a table leg, gazes hungrily at the food atop the table. It lunges forward, only to be abruptly restrained by a short black chain, yanking it back to the ground. The creature, incensed, glares at the chain, mentally cursing Ji Xian's ancestors for this torment. Defiance ignites within it. It clings to the table leg, shaking it vehemently. What's wrong with you, mutt? Sun Huang queries, peeking out with a mouthful of sweet bean cake. Woof. I protest. Grant me some food. The Xiaotian dog exclaims, rising on its hind legs, crossing its front paws in a stance of indignation. Enough of that racket. I cannot comprehend your barking. Sun Huang retorts, delivering a swift kick that sends the Xiaotian dog spinning wildly. Enraged, the dog leaps up, yelping in fury. You audacious cur. How dare you strike me? Once I break free from this restraint, I shall rend you limb from limb. What audacity do you possess? A mere cultivator of the sacred king realm. Upon hearing its rebellious growls, Sun Huang crouches down, a grin spreading across his face. Oh, little pup. You still have some spirit. Very well. Today, I am in a generous mood, and I shall reward you with a treat. With that, he retrieves a pastry from the table, discreetly adding a dash of his special seasoning before offering it. The Xiaotian dog rolls its eyes. Ah, now we're talking. You have some sense after all. It approaches eagerly, devouring the treat. The pastry emits a subtle fragrance, initially soft and delightful. However, as the Xiaotian dog continues to eat, it senses something amiss. What is this foul odor? It finally recognizes the scent, faint yet unmistakable, reminiscent of the stench of decay, a scent it had long been familiar with during its time in the Nether Mountains. Sun Huang scoffed derisively, and then said with a mischievous grin, of course. This is a local specialty I extracted from an ancient tomb, specially scraped from a corpse. Your mother. The howling sky dog barked loudly, coughing several times before clearing its throat. I'll bite you to death. Woof woof woof. It lunged forward, only to be yanked back by the black chain. Observing the creature's constrained movements, Sun Huang offered fresh food, retreating as the howling sky dog charged, maintaining a constant safe distance. Thus began a playful tug-of-war between a monkey and a dog. In the early morning, a time that should have been tranquil, was instead filled with the raucous sounds of their antics. Each time the howling sky dog lunged forward, it was met with a sharp jab from Sun Huang's nose. Yet, its inner fury burned fiercely. It was determined to bite that insufferable monkey. Sun Huang, with a wicked grin, danced around, taunting the howling sky dog while delivering slaps to its face. For a moment, it was hard to discern who was truly the dog. Passers-by instinctively avoided the scene, fearful of being bitten and afflicted with some unwanted ailment. Ji Xian, witnessing the spectacle, couldn't help but chuckle. Indeed, those who followed him possessed their own distinctive traits. At that moment, a wisp of dark energy wafted by, capturing his attention. Are those cultivators from Ming Mountain? He lifted his gaze to a street corner, where he spotted several oddly appearing cultivators engaged in animated discussion. Lord Wolf God instructed us to search for his other body here. Isn't that a bit of a tall order? One pale-faced old Taoist remarked. Another with the head of an ox responded, this is peculiar. Could there really be two identical bodies in existence, indistinguishable from one another? Upon hearing this, the old Taoist recoiled slightly, wearing an expression of ignorance. Alas, with 3,000 states so vast, where shall we search? He lamented. I heard the last known location was at the Shintian Dao sect. Should we sneak over? Suggested the ox-headed man. The old Taoist promptly slapped him, exclaiming, you fool. Do you not realize who resides atop Jinyan Mountain? If you seek death, go ahead. He would never forget the catastrophic battle, the first confrontation after Ming Mountain's emergence, a resounding defeat. Then what do you propose we do? The ox-headed man groaned, cradling his swollen forehead. Meanwhile, the Howling Sky Dog had also noticed the group of Ming Mountain cultivators. It's the people from the Ninth Palace. They are my emperor's subordinates. It felt a surge of joy, tugging on its leash, eager to dash toward them, momentarily disregarding Ji Xian, who had been observing it closely. Sensing the opportunity, Ji Xian deliberately loosened the black dog chain. In an instant, the Howling Sky Dog recognized its newfound freedom and, without hesitation, transformed into a streak of black lightning. Racing toward the cultivators, it reached the group of Ming Mountain cultivators and barked loudly. Hey, hey, hey! The Emperor is here. Quickly notify Ming Mountain to send someone to rescue me. Call several emperors. Hurry, hurry. The Ming Mountain cultivators stared at the frenzied black dog on the ground, utterly bewildered, unable to decipher its frantic message. Where did this wild dog come from? What the hell? Can't you see we are in the midst of a discussion? The Minotaur bellowed furiously and delivered a powerful kick, sending the Howling Sky Hound soaring through the air. The little black dog traced a graceful arc before landing back at the table where Ji Xian and Sun Huowang were seated. In a flash of dark light, the dog chain reappeared, binding him once more. Damn it, you heartless wretches, I have raised you in vain. The Howling Sky Hound growled, glaring at the distant cultivators from Ming Mountain, who were supposed to be his subordinates, yet he felt an overwhelming urge to eliminate them. At that moment, Ji Xian waved his hand, manifesting divine authority, and summoned several Ming Mountain cultivators over. Chapter 236, setting off into the uncertain divine sea at a street corner. The Ming Mountain cultivators engaged in conversation suddenly felt the world spinning around them, their consciousness momentarily drifting into the void. When they regained their senses, they found themselves no longer at their previous location, but standing before a tea house. Ji Xian, clad in white, sat there, savoring a cup of tea, while Sun Huowang, with his mouth full of food, glared menacingly at the newcomers. Kneel, Ji Xian commanded softly, tapping his teacup. Boom. Before the cultivators could react, an immense pressure descended from the heavens. The weight was like a mountain, forcing their knees to bend and thrusting them to the ground, shattering the cobblestones beneath them. The old Taoist, head bowed and face contorted in agony, felt as though countless steel needles were piercing his body, enduring the tremendous force with excruciating pain. The Minotaur and his companions fared no better, their bodies on the verge of shattering. Who are you? Why do this? The Minotaur gritted his teeth and inquired. Ji Xian did not answer the question but instead asked, has the Howling Wolf God sent you? Simply respond with yes or no. The Minotaur retorted, esteemed one, you are being somewhat excessive. We from Ming Mountain. Boom. Before he could finish, he exploded into a mist of blood, his essence obliterated. Ji Xian then turned his gaze toward the old Taoist. Complete the question I just posed. Instantly, the old Taoist felt a wave of murderous intent, his consciousness flooded with visions of a hellish landscape. A mountain of corpses and a sea of blood loomed before him. The young man in white exuded no discernible aura, yet merely meeting his gaze instilled such terror. He understood that any hint of defiance could lead to a fate akin to that of the Minotaur. Imperial might. This was a sovereign of the 3,000 prefectures. He suddenly regained clarity, and without hesitation, he responded, esteemed senior, we are indeed here under the Wolf God's orders to seek his other half. However, we have not yet located it. Why does he not come himself? Ji Xian inquired. The Wolf God is in the East Sea. Preoccupied with other matters and unable to attend, the old Taoist stammered. In the other region of the uncertain divine sea in the East Sea, Ji Xian murmured. Then, with a thought, he breached the old Taoist's mental defenses and began to search his soul. The memories matched his description precisely. And Ji Xian learned that the Wolf God was at a place known as the Dragon Palace, seemingly in pursuit of some opportunity. The old Taoist's mental realm suffered a devastating blow, and with a pained scream, he fainted on the spot. Ji Xian continued to extract the souls of the remaining individuals, gathering pertinent information before unleashing several strands of divine thought that swiftly annihilated them. Rising to his feet amidst the terrified gaze of the tea shop attendant, he tossed a handful of spirit stones and addressed Sun Huowang behind him, saying, take that foolish dog. We must depart. At the port, a man, a monkey, and a dog boarded a grand vessel. The ship, measuring 1,000 feet in length and entirely black, was capable of accommodating thousands of people. The chaotic realm of the indeterminate divine sea, filled with ancient secrets and celestial abysses, made this ship, crafted from unique materials, essential for navigating such treacherous waters. More importantly, Ji Xian simply desired to travel by ship. The Howling Sky Dog followed closely behind Ji Xian, transmitting a thought to him. Ji Xian, you don't harbor any intentions towards my other body, do you? Ji Xian cast him a sidelong glance and replied half-jokingly. What could a humanoid possibly want with a dog? The types don't even match. Hearing this, the Howling Sky Dog shivered with dread and retorted, regardless of your thoughts. I advise you to abandon such notions. The moment we meet, we will merge and break through to supremacy. At that point, you shall not be my equal. Ji Xian chuckled, allowing a trace of supreme power to escape his fingertips, forming a small Taiji diagram. I shall await your arrival. Upon sensing the surging power emanating from the Taiji diagram, the Howling Sky Dog was momentarily stunned. What the hell? Has he broken through to supremacy? Wasn't his last breakthrough to the Dharma aspect realm centuries ago? What kind of monster is this? No, I must ensure he does not find his other body. Otherwise, the Dao sect will acquire another watchful guardian. The Howling Sky Dog thought to himself, simultaneously praying that his other body would stay far away from this creature. The grand vessel slowly departed the port, drifting into the depths of the North Sea. The North Sea, as one of the 5 domains of the indeterminate Divine Sea, spanned vast expanses, rumored to surpass the combined land area of the 3,000 states. However, unlike the 3,000 states, teeming with myriad races and flourishing cultivation civilizations, this region consisted only of endless ocean and countless solitary islands. The sea churned violently, producing a thunderous rumble. The sky was dim and devoid of light, with fierce winds howling, and the opaque black waters concealing unknown opportunities and dangers beneath. This vessel followed a fixed route, passing numerous islands along its journey. The group was assigned to a lavish cabin on board, where Ji Xian sat quietly in meditation, contemplating his divine powers. Sun Huang, in contrast, was restless, bouncing around, touching lanterns, polishing sticks, and tugging at the fur of the Howling Sky Dog, provoking a torrent of curses from the irate canine. Huang, do you have any knowledge of the residence of the Kunping Emperor? Ji Xian inquired. Sun Huang awkwardly scratched his head and shook it, replying, I do not know. I did indeed operate near the Kunping Emperor's island, but for some reason, I fell asleep and awoke to find myself washed ashore on the beaches of Wanyao Prefecture. Ji Xian nodded, choosing not to pursue the matter further. The great emperor appears and disappears mysteriously, only emerging in times of significant events. The aged figure Ji Xian encountered by the sea was merely a manifestation of his divine consciousness. Recently, he discreetly attempted to communicate several times from 100,000 miles away, yet received no response. However, Ji Xian remained unperturbed, for his prior calculations had foretold that he would soon meet the great Emperor Kunping in the near future. 3 years later. Oh dear, this is utterly vexing. I must take a stroll. Sun Huang could no longer contain himself. His naturally restless spirit was ill-suited for the meditative pursuit of enlightenment. Yet, he recalled Ji Xian's warning before they set off. This route would encounter anomalies, so he should refrain from rash actions. Stealing a glance at Ji Xian, who was engrossed in his meditative state, he thought to himself, a brief excursion should pose no trouble. With utmost stealth, Sun Huang approached Ji Xian, lightly clearing his throat. Master, I'm going to the deck for some fresh air. Ji Xian, with his eyes gently closed, offered no response. Master, I shall count to 3. If you do not respond, I shall take it as your consent. With that, he began to count. 3, 2, 1. Master? Noticing Ji Xian's lack of reaction, Sun Huang quietly pushed open the door to the guest room and slipped outside. In the corridor of the attic, Sun Huang tiptoed out, leaning against the railing. He gazed at the mysterious sea. Over 3 years of sailing had taken the grand vessel across tens of millions of miles, transforming the once harsh environment of this sea into a serene, deep blue. The horizon was adorned with various celestial bodies, gracefully rotating and radiating brilliant starlight, each one colossal, resembling ancient divine mountains suspended in the sky. In the distance, the sky dazzled with colors, and some planets hung low, with one even passing directly above the ship. Countless celestial bodies formed vast seas of stars, while translucent, multicolored whales floated through the air. In that moment, Sun Huang felt as though the ship was not merely gliding across the ocean, but rather soaring through the cosmos. Strange, something feels amiss, Sun Huang murmured to himself. In his recollection, the Beiming Sea was perpetually stormy and dark, often plagued by sea monsters and aquatic beasts. How could it be so tranquil and harmonious now? Yet, he could not pinpoint what was out of place. The surface of the sea rippled, white waves surging forward in gentle undulations. Perhaps the vastness of the Beiming Sea harbored peculiar spots that were not surprising. As he pondered, Sun Huang strolled towards the bow of the ship. The deck at the bow was spacious, resembling a small square, where various cultivators had gathered. The captain stood at the front, discussing navigation matters with a sailor beside him. This scenery seems somewhat off. It was just stormy. How did we suddenly step into a starry expanse? Nevertheless, the captain furrowed his brow, scrutinizing the navigation chart. A few sailors felt a twinge of apprehension. Such strange phenomena were exceedingly bizarre. However, to maintain the passengers' calm, they chose not to disclose this unsettling discovery. The cultivators on the deck gazed in awe at the resplendent starry sky, expressing their admiration. The uncertain divine sea indeed manifests as a realm of divinity. Even the great stars soaring through the skies serve as exquisite materials for crafting artifacts, while the ethereal creatures gliding in the distance are undoubtedly the finest companions for beast tamers. Indeed, the spiritual energy in this region is overwhelmingly abundant. With even a faint trace of celestial essence flowing through it, there must be unparalleled divine treasures hidden within. Yet, it is curious that this does not align with the descriptions of the legendary North Sea. Sun Huang weaved through the crowd, absorbing the myriad of discussions around him. Lost in reverie, suddenly, his peripheral vision caught a familiar figure. It was a rather unsightly demon cultivator, lacking a right leg, portly in stature, leaning on a battered cane. Having already taken on a human form, a three-legged golden toad, memories from centuries past surged forth. Recalling his first encounter with his master at the stone gambling house in Wanyao Prefecture, which had occurred due to this very toad. With Wanyao Prefecture having fallen and various demon clans suffering a brutal massacre, it was quite a surprise that this little brother of his had managed to survive. Sun Huang approached him. The three-legged golden toad sensed footsteps approaching from behind, turned to look, and upon seeing Sun Huang, his pupils constricted as he exclaimed with excitement. "Big brother." Sun Huang chuckled and patted his shoulder, saying, "You, my friend, have quite the resilient fate." The two began to reminisce about their carefree and reckless lives from years gone by. When asked how he had evaded the massacre at Ming Mountain, the three-legged golden toad awkwardly scratched the back of his head. He explained, "I left Wanyao Prefecture to endure the sacred tribulation in the uncertain divine sea, which allowed me to escape the onslaught of the Ming Mountain army. It took me 100 years of wandering before I finally arrived here in Haizhou, where I became a sailor and bodyguard on this ship. Big brother, I heard you have become a disciple of that great emperor in Xianzhou. Is it true?" Sun Huang nodded affirmatively, stating, "Indeed, after the battle at the Fire Dragon Tomb, I have been with my master ever since." The three-legged golden toad, retracting his neck, inquired, "That emperor must have forgotten about me, right? Back then, I was hoping to swindle him at the stone gambling house. He dared not set foot in Xianzhou out of fear that the emperor might hold a grudge and strike him down with a mere flick of his hand. Had it not been for Sun Huang's timely intervention, he might have lost his life that day." Sun Huang waved his hand dismissively, reassuring him, "You need not worry. My master possesses a generous heart and would not dwell on such trivial matters." The three-legged golden toad sighed in relief, affirming, "You're right. A person of such extraordinary caliber as the Xuandi would hardly concern himself with someone as insignificant as me." However, he hesitated to express his lingering apprehensions. Observing his unease, Sun Huang grasped his arm, saying, "If you remain unsettled, I shall accompany you to apologize to my master. We have been brothers for nearly 1,000 years. I will assist you with this. Besides, my master is not one to harbor grievances. Come along with me. He is in the guest room just behind." Upon hearing this, the three-legged golden toad jolted, hastily freeing himself from Sun Huang's grip. His face was a mask of terror as he gazed at the towering 100-story building behind him. Who could have imagined that a great emperor resided within? Sun Huang frowned. "Damn it, quit dawdling and let us go." Just as he contemplated forcibly dragging the three-legged golden toad along, the crowd around them suddenly stirred restlessly. "What is happening?" Sun Huang peered outward. On the once tranquil surface of the sea, enormous bubbles suddenly emerged. The celestial bodies above trembled in unison, producing a sound reminiscent of grinding stones. In an instant, the surface of the planets was adorned with radiant chains of order, stretching towards the heavens. Countless celestial orbs shone brilliantly, while billions of divine chains rattled, their cacophony piercing the air. The three-legged golden toad and the other sailors were taken aback by this phenomenon, despite years at sea. They had never encountered such an eerie occurrence. The very entry into this unfamiliar star domain had already astonished them, and now, with this bizarre spectacle unfolding, uncertainty hung heavily in their hearts. The sound of rolling bubbles echoed from the ocean's surface, as the once boundless expanse of azure waters became filled with spherical bubbles of considerable size. The grand ship appeared to have detached from the sea, soaring through a realm crafted from these bubbles. There was something within the bubbles. One individual, the first to notice the anomaly, exclaimed in shock. The other cultivators turned to look, and indeed, through the translucent surfaces of the bubbles, they beheld moving entities inside. Were those fish? Sun Huang, possessing an extraordinary sight, quickly discerned the beings within the bubbles. Each bubble harbored a fish, resplendent in translucent blue, vibrant beyond measure. With a soft pop, the first bubble burst. Under the watchful gazes of the crowd, a crystalline little fish leaped forth, hovering momentarily in the air before plunging back into the water. That was the sacred sea spirit fish. An elder in the crowd cried out, a seasoned herbalist well-versed in rare treasures. "Old sir, what is the sacred sea spirit fish?" A young man inquired, stepping forward. The old herbalist replied, "I have read of this in ancient texts. Such fish existed only in primordial times. said to be nurtured by deities. Within them lies a unique crystal, coveted even by emperors. For emperors, this crystal enhances longevity and comprehension of the celestial laws. For ordinary cultivators, it aids in grasping the mysteries of ascension to emperorhood. In the 3,000 states, only emperors may cultivate this fish, and they are exceedingly rare. Who would have thought so many would be found here? As the elder spoke, hundreds and thousands of bubbles burst, releasing streams of little fish that dove into the ocean. Hearing the herbalist's words, the hearts of all present surged with anticipation. They had embarked on this voyage in search of fortune, after all. Immediately, some cultivators leaped from the ship, reaching out to seize a sacred sea spirit fish, slicing open its belly to extract a blue crystal. The old herbalist, witnessing this, shouted in dismay, "What a waste! Such fish require careful nurturing to continuously yield crystals." Soon after, a second, a third, and a throng of cultivators rushed down to capture the azure fish. Sun Huang, observing the scene, felt a twinge of urgency. Such sacred items not only benefited him, but also held extraordinary value for the emperor. He too desired to catch some to present to his master. Yet, he recalled Ji Xian's admonitions, leaving him momentarily hesitant. The three-legged golden toad perceived Sun Huang's trepidation and opened its palm, revealing a small boat nestled within. He spoke up, "Brother, shall we take the boat?" This vessel, crafted from unique materials and inscribed with spatial seals, is linked to the main ship. In the event of danger, we can be transported back at once. Sun Huang nodded, with their master stationed on the main ship. He felt no need to overthink the situation. All right, let us depart. Chapter 238. Beneath the sea upon the ocean composed of bubbles, countless cultivators were competing fiercely, ruthlessly hunting the divine sea fish. Yet, those experienced in maritime ventures remained cautious, for in their memories, the northern underworld sea was a tumultuous expanse, steeped in endless legends. Such a scene was decidedly unusual. Splash! The sound of water echoed as a small black boat landed on the surface. The three-legged golden toad busily maneuvered, expertly initiating the boat's operation. Sun Huang stood at the bow, wielding a divine staff of obsidian, vigilantly surveying the waters around him. "Brother, we are setting sail," the three-legged golden toad called out, as the sails unfurled and the small black vessel began its slow advance. The divine sea fish near the large ship had been completely harvested, and the small boat made its way towards the heart of the ocean. There, the cacophony of battle resounded. Various cultivators displayed their prowess, summoning magical artifacts, their divine light dazzling and painting the sky in vibrant hues. As he observed the distant fish being seized, Sun Huang felt a surge of impatience. He turned to the three-legged golden toad and urged, "Come on. Can we speed this up? We might as well be eating dung at this rate." Hearing this, the three-legged golden toad immediately channeled more divine power, cheerfully responding, "Fear not. Brother, this boat is renowned for its speed." Crack! No sooner had he spoken than the boat's safety railing shattered, plunging downwards. In an instant, a deluge of seawater surged into the cabin, rising to Sun Huang's waist, while the diminutive three-legged golden toad was swept into the depths. What in the world is happening? Isn't this boat supposed to be fast? Sun Huang grumbled, raising his staff to prop open the cabin and rescue the three-legged golden toad. The toad, looking at the submerged cabin, chuckled foolishly. "Of course it's fast. Sinks quickly too." Sun Huang was left speechless, harnessing divine energy to salvage the vessel. He dared not be reckless. Attempting to traverse this sea solely by physical means could indeed lead to unforeseen calamities. Thus, he relied on this boat for their journey. As the three-legged golden toad had mentioned, the vessel was inscribed with numerous spatial runes, connecting it to the larger ship behind. Once activated, it could transport them back in an instant. With the empowerment of divine energy, the boat's speed surged, reaching the area in less than a moment. Countless bubbles burst, and just as the divine sea fish emerged, they were swiftly struck down by the arriving cultivators, who seized the crystals within their bodies. Furthermore, Sun Huang noticed that the conflict in this region extended beyond the struggle between cultivators and divine fish. Fierce battles were also erupting among the cultivators themselves, engaged in a bloody contest over the crystals in their possession. No longer hesitating, Sun Huang plunged into the fray. Inside the main ship's cabin, Ji Xian squinted at the screen before him, which displayed the scene of Sun Huang and the cultivators vying for the divine fish. The howling celestial hound fixed its gaze upon the scene, its eyes shimmering with a fervent light as it observed the school of sea spirit sacred fish. "How about I toss you into the sea to catch a couple?" Ji Xian playfully kicked the hound's rear. The hound swallowed hard and replied, "I shall not go. By my imperial intuition, this maritime expanse feels off. An ancient celestial aura lingers here." The intertwining planetary chains above formed the nascent shape of a grand cosmic formation. If I am not mistaken, there lies a secret location within this sea, leading to an unknown realm. Should we be inadvertently transported to a realm beyond the cosmos? It may be eons before we return. It is best not to act rashly. Ji Xian nodded in agreement. Since entering this maritime territory, he had sensed a subtle celestial aura, a distortion of time and space. He then focused his attention on the small fish that leapt free from their bubbles. Each creature from the primordial era was a rare gem, yet here they appeared in abundance, quite intriguing. In an instant, he extended his vast consciousness, enveloping an area nearly 100,000 miles in radius. All the cultivators outside, engaged in their fierce competition, suddenly felt a chill sweep through their hearts, as if a mysterious force had penetrated their very beings, leaving them uncomfortable. In that moment, they sensed being scrutinized. There is indeed something here. Ji Xian's consciousness delved down to the depths of the ocean, discovering a mysterious teleportation platform. He split off a fragment of his soul and directed it toward the ocean floor. The deep sea was profoundly silent, shrouded in darkness, devoid of any light. This fragment of his soul took on his form and slowly descended. During this descent, Ji Xian perceived several powerful auras, all at the quasi-emperor level. In the boundless darkness, various colossal sea beasts glided past, their massive forms glowing with crimson eyes. Upon sensing a disturbance, they assumed there was prey nearby. However, upon detecting Ji Xian's aura, they were startled, letting out a frightened roar before vanishing into the shadows. Descending several tens of thousands of fathoms to the ocean floor, Ji Xian beheld numerous ancient relics. Rows of palatial structures lay scattered atop the underwater mountains, worn down by the passage of time and the relentless currents. The towering walls were severely corroded from above. Ji Xian could discern the marks of time. He surmised that these ancient edifices had existed for at least tens of millions of years. Cradling a piece of azure stone in his hands, Ji Xian felt a faint flow of temporal energy coursing through it, alongside a hint of true dragon power. This was a monumental discovery. The true dragon had long vanished from the 9 heavens and 10 earths, existing solely within the realms of ancient celestial lore. A fact well known among all cultivators. With this clue, the prospect of the ancient celestial realm appeared promising. Suddenly, a disturbance echoed from afar. Ji Xian turned to see a dark silhouette darting away swiftly. With a sweep of his hand, he reached forward. Instantly, the golden Taiji circle materialized, and a colossal golden hand emerged, drawing forth torrents of oceanic currents. The underwater volcanoes trembled under the influence of this powerful force, rumbling ominously as they prepared to erupt. With a mere gesture, Ji Xian set the entire oceanic expanse into tremors. A shadow emitted a mournful cry as Ji Xian's golden hand gently grasped it, drawing it closer. It was an ancient sea turtle of the Great Sage Realm, adorned with 2 long white whiskers by its mouth. Upon noticing Ji Xian's release, it promptly knelt in reverence. "Forgive me, esteemed one. I did not mean to offend. I humbly ask for your mercy. You little demon, from whence do you hail? And how is it you find yourself here?" Ji Xian inquired. The old sea turtle, trembling with trepidation, replied, "To be candid, I am a native of this palace." Ji Xian was taken aback. He estimated that this palace had existed for no less than 10 million years, and the life fluctuations of oceanic beings had long since vanished. How could a turtle still dwell here? Could it truly be, as the saying goes, a 1,000-year turtle, a 10,000-year tortoise? That a great sage realm tortoise had lived for millions of years? Perceiving Ji Xian's bewilderment, the old turtle explained, "Esteemed one, I was transported here. I did not originate from this oceanic expanse. This palace was not originally rooted here. It arrived due to the influence of a mysterious spatial domain." "And from where did you originally come?" Ji Xian pressed. "The Dragon Palace of the East Sea," the turtle replied. Chapter 239, The Formation the East Sea, alongside the Northern Abyss, is one of the 5 great domains of the indeterminate Divine Sea, as revealed by the old turtle. It was born in the Dragon Palace of the East Sea, drawn here by some force of the realm. Beside a colossal teleportation array, the old sea turtle gestured, saying, "Predecessor, this is the teleportation array." It had been damaged and could no longer be activated, and within it lingered a formidable aura of killing intent. Over the millennia, several would-be emperors seeking opportunity had ventured in, only to meet their demise. Ji Xian stood atop a lofty platform, overlooking the immense teleportation array below. This imperial formation spanned thousands of miles, intricately inscribed with a multitude of array patterns, possessing spatial effects, and seemingly sealing something within. "Ah," Ji Xian exclaimed softly, as a realization dawned upon him. At the base of the teleportation array lay sealed 16 colossal sea beasts of the quasi-emperor realm, each one immense, akin to an underwater mountain range. Moreover, the markings upon them were connected to the array. Ji Xian's thoughts drifted to the celestial chains, and the holy fish of the sea spirits soaring above the ocean. They too bore similar oscillations. Generally, the operation of a formation requires a focal point and its corresponding array vessel to activate them. In light of the current circumstances, these celestial bodies and sea beasts could very well influence the formation's operation. With a hum, Ji Xian opened his divine eye, its depths swirling with 5-colored chaotic divine light, illuminating the dark and desolate seabed. 2 beams of light shot forth from his eyes, gradually expanding, enveloping the entire ocean floor. The divine eye pierced through all illusions, and within mere moments, Ji Xian discerned the core of the formation's operation. Blood energy streamed from the surface of the sea, its hue dim, interconnected like chains to the formation. With the mass mortality of the holy fish of the sea spirits, an increasing amount of blood energy was funneled into the seabed, manifesting signs of revival in the teleportation array. As the holy fish of the sea spirits perished, the array's power gradually swelled, destined to awaken, and one day, it would surely be activated. Upon awakening, the slumbering sea beasts require a replenishment of vitality. Contemplating this, Ji Xian gazed towards the surface of the sea, where countless cultivators were engaged in a fierce battle, bodies shattering and blood splattering. The essence of vitality is indeed your sustenance. Ji Xian understood that all of this was part of a grand scheme. The architect of this formidable array did not specifically target them. Instead, it awaited the day when a living being would inadvertently trespass into this domain, triggering the conditions for the formation's activation. By mere chance, the ship he was aboard was affected by the field, straying into this place and becoming the sacrificial offering to initiate the array. Among all the cultivators at sea, the highest rank was merely that of a great sage. Should these quasi-emperor sea beasts awaken, it would spell disaster for them. However, Ji Xian showed no intention of intervening. He observed Sun Huowang, who was fighting valiantly on the blood-soaked surface, and remarked with a smile, "Let this impudent lad face these little sea beasts. It will serve as a lesson for him." With that, he waved his sleeve and stepped onto the white stone steps, making his way towards the dilapidated palace complex. The old sea turtle trembled as it followed closely behind, standing on its hind legs, but still not reaching the height of Ji Xian's thigh. As he beheld Ji Xian's imposing silhouette, an increasing dread filled his heart. If his suspicions were correct, this elder was likely a quasi-emperor of the human race. In the old sea turtle's recollection, only the dragon princess of the quasi-emperor lineage possessed such an aura. Regrettably, had he known better, he would have refrained from meddling in this affair. Now, captured, his fate seemed grim. The old sea turtle lamented internally. With a lifespan extending to nearly 1 million years, he had just a mere 10,000 years left to reach the milestone of 100,000. Alas, he had unwittingly walked into a trap. The duo, a man and a turtle, strolled past numerous palaces. "Are you familiar with the realm of Xiangu?" Ji Xian suddenly inquired. In response, esteemed elder, "That is a distant land. The princess of my clan once conveyed to me that it is her homeland," came the reply. At this, Ji Xian was moved, asking, "Who is the princess you speak of? Does she hail from Xiangu?" The old sea turtle hesitated for a moment before nodding and responding. "Our clan's princess is indeed a being of the dragon lineage, and she comes from Xiangu. Upon arriving in the 9 heavens and 10 earths, she commanded the creatures of the Eastern Sea, establishing the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace, claiming it would remind her of her homeland. Thereafter, she sealed herself within the Chaos Dao platform and fell into slumber. Later, due to significant upheavals in the Eastern Sea, the field was affected, and I, along with these palaces, were transported here, becoming separated from my kin." Ji Xian pondered for a moment. His initial purpose for venturing into the unfathomable sea was to meet the Kunping Emperor, yet the suddenly emerging clues regarding Xiangu intrigued him immensely. After deliberation, he made a decision to ensure the smooth activation of this teleportation array, traversing the northern underworld sea to reach the Eastern Sea. This presented a rare opportunity. For according to the records of the witchcraft heavenly works, the northern underworld and Eastern Sea were not directly connected, but were separated by numerous small universes. Should Ji Xian attempt to cross alone, it could take him several hundred years. The remaining energy of this teleportation array was limited, and this opportunity might only arise once. He ventured further into the palace complex, delving several dozen miles deeper, and made a new discovery. In a desolate square, the ground was strewn with hundreds of fragments of chaos stones. The power within the chaos stones had dissipated, leaving only empty shells. Was this the breath of Qingqing? Ji Xian picked up a small piece of chaos stone, residual traces of chaos energy still clinging to it. The cultivation of a chaos body necessitated the nourishment of chaos power, making these stones undoubtedly the optimal choice. The pile of remnants on the ground had evidently been used by Qingqing. Alas, this girl, in her quest for cultivation, seemed to be risking her life. Ji Xian sighed. This sea area was teeming with sea beasts of the quasi-emperor realm. It was a veritable death trap for cultivators of the Holy King realm. Yet, Qingqing had ventured in alone, seeking chaos stones. No, could it be that Ji Xian suddenly recalled what the old sea turtle had mentioned about the Chaos Dao platform, leading to a conjecture in his mind? Could it be that Qingqing, having not returned for hundreds of years, had gone to the East Sea in search of similar chaos stones? He hastily opened the system panel and accessed Qingqing's personal profile. Name, Qingqing. Gender, female. Cultivation, Holy King realm. Physique, chaos body. Current location, near the Dragon Palace of the East Sea indeed. Ji Xian's heart tightened momentarily, astonished by Qingqing's audacity, but then a smile of relief spread across his face. If all his disciples possessed her kind of courage, he would have far fewer worries. Suddenly, a violent sound erupted from the direction of the teleportation array. The vast teleportation platform, spanning miles, rumbled and produced a grinding noise. In an instant, various divine lights intertwined. Brilliant hues flitted by, and the underwater palace complex began to tremble. The teleportation platform was awakening. Chapter 240. The anomaly of the divine sea on the surface of the sea, a multitude of cultivators, driven mad by greed, clashed fiercely to seize the crystals from one another. These were coveted treasures, even envied by emperors, and in such a situation, none could resist the allure. The three-legged golden toad nestled in a small black boat, watching in terror as Sun Huoguang fought desperately above. Big brother, be a bit gentler. This boat is about to crack, or we might not make it back. Sun Huoguang stood aloft, exuding a murderous intent that surged like a dragon into the heavens. His fiery hair blazed, manifesting a towering divine form, brandishing a long weapon that could fell dozens of foes with each strike. This disturbance naturally drew the attention of several cultivators. They were utterly astonished by Sun Huoguang's prowess. A cultivator of the Holy King realm could overpower the masses, effortlessly slaying opponents of the same tier and pressuring even the holy sovereigns. How had he achieved such feats? As the bodies piled up, the quantity of crystals in Sun Huoguang's possession gradually increased, attracting even more cultivators' interest. Immediately, an elder sage stepped forward. He was an aged Taoist, with sparse hair and weathered skin. You, a mere Holy King cultivator, dare to hoard such a bounty of crystals? Surrender them to us at once. The elder sage sneered repeatedly, wielding a vast bowl that obscured the sky. A tremendous suction emanated from the bowl's rim, 8 stars swirling around it, as if attempting to draw Sun Huoguang into its depths. With a resounding crash, the vast expanse of the ocean stirred, influenced by the enormous bowl, hinting at an ominous upward trend. The aged elder, deludedly perceiving himself as an unparalleled force, let out a roar. Sun Huoguang transformed into his beast form, standing majestically upon the water like a small mountain. The black gold shaman, too, grew to an imposing height of 1,000 zhong, wielding it with both arms and swinging it fiercely. A piercing metallic clash echoed as the celestial bowl was sent hurtling through the air, spinning several hundred times. Strangely, it did not shatter but was returned intact to the elder's grasp. This was indeed a semi-empirical weapon. Sun Huoguang's heart sank. This meant he could not rely on the advantage of his weapon. Moreover, should a great sage wield a semi-empirical weapon, the unleashed might would far surpass his own. Realizing he was on the brink of a dire confrontation, Sun Huoguang lowered his gaze. The elder displayed a sinister grin, his yellowed teeth gleaming as he remarked, "Ah, it seems this is also a semi-empirical weapon. Fortune smiles upon us. Is it not improper for you, Dao brother, to hoard a divine monkey?" At this, a figure clad in purple emerged from the distance, a frail old woman, leaning on a cane and moving with great slowness, yet exuding a magnificent aura of purple energy. Sun Huoguang felt the overwhelming power radiating from her, causing his red fur to stand on end. She was a beast master, perilously close to the semi-empirical realm, and possessed a forbidden artifact. Forbidden artifacts are extreme imperial weapons with limited uses, often forged from incomplete imperial relics, capable of unleashing 1 or 2 devastating strikes. Even these few strikes were beyond the endurance of cultivators below the imperial level. The elder frowned, realizing the gravity of the situation. This old woman wielded a forbidden artifact, and their treasures were in jeopardy. Sun Huoguang, not daring to underestimate the threat, discreetly transmitted a message to the three-legged golden toad, urging it to activate the spatial seal and return to the great ship. There, his master held dominion. Not even a true imperial weapon could threaten them without dire consequences. "Let us go," the three-legged golden toad exclaimed, swiftly activating the ship's formation, causing its black hull to blur and prepare to vanish beneath the waves. "Humph, attempting to flee?" The old woman scoffed disdainfully, extending a beam of purple light that severed the spatial threads in midair, revealing the concealed vessel once more. She advanced towards Sun Huoguang, her gaze burning with intensity. "Little monkey, come here obediently. I have a particular fondness for monkey brains. Your innate constitution is exceedingly rare. The essence must be delightful." Her sinister smile belied the cruelty of her words, as the notion of consuming brains slipped from her lips with unsettling ease. The elder also approached, intent on seizing the divine treasure within Sun Huoguang. The atmosphere grew tense as the two great sages drew nearer, their oppressive aura bearing down on him like a mountain, causing his bones to crack under the weight. With a clenched jaw, Sun Huoguang shouted defiantly, "I'm going all out." He swung his iron staff in retaliation. The elder chuckled, "A futile effort. I shall strike you down first. That semi-empirical weapon is mine." Just as the elder prepared to strike, the entire sea began to tremble violently, the celestial bodies above quaking, and the chains of order rattled ominously. The seawater began to boil, and the once tranquil and docile sea spirit sacred fish became extraordinarily agitated, darting about in chaos. This was an instinctual reaction, heralding an impending disaster. What transpired? The old man gazed at the tumultuous surface of the sea and exclaimed in shock, his body shaking violently as a tremendous surge of energy emanated from the depths below, disrupting his breath. Vaguely, he perceived the manifestation of a colossal silhouette beneath the deep waters, surging upward with incredible speed. This is dire. With a tremendous splash, a fearsome sea king beast, its maw filled with razor-sharp teeth, erupted from the water, opening its cavernous mouth wide and swallowing the old man whole. Inside its belly, The old man screamed in agony, struggling desperately, yet all was futile before the might of the Quasi-Emperor Sea King Beast. With a sickening crack, the sound of bones shattering echoed, signifying the old man's demise. A profound shock rippled through the hearts of the assembled cultivators, their faces pale with horror. A great sage had fallen. This is intolerable, retreat at once. That is a Quasi-Emperor level Sea King Beast. The old woman sensed the ominous aura of danger and hastily attempted to flee. However, an octopus-shaped Sea King Beast had set its sights on her, a tentacle sweeping through the water and forcefully slamming her to the seabed. With a cry of despair, the old woman was violently struck, half of her body sent flying, her sacred blood spilling forth and staining the sea red. This sudden upheaval stunned all the cultivators, in the blink of an eye. Two great sage-level cultivators had met with death and dismemberment. Rumbling, the underwater teleportation array gradually revived, the great stars quaking in unison. The very fabric of space threatening to tear apart as a vast rift opened in the brilliant starry sky. Beneath the water's surface, underwater volcanoes erupted simultaneously, scorching magma spewing forth and colliding with the icy seawater, exacerbating the chaos. Below the array, an ever-increasing number of Sea King beasts were awakening, breaking through the sediment, drawn upward by the scent of fresh blood. Simultaneously, the teleportation array underwent drastic changes. In its center, the crumbling stone slabs collapsed, revealing a bottomless pit resembling a tunnel leading to unknown realms. Within the ship's cabin, the drowsy howling sky dog was suddenly roused, peering through the screen at the tunnel, stunned as he sensed the presence of another entity. Chapter 241, The Ancient Battlefield Emerges. Inside the grand ship's guest room, the howling sky dog fixated on the dark spatial tunnel displayed on the screen, feeling the aura of another being. Suddenly, a shiver ran through him, instinctually drawing a sharp breath as he looked up to find Ji Xian's penetrating gaze fixed upon him. His five-colored eyes seemed capable of seeing through all. In that moment, the howling sky dog felt as though his very thoughts were laid bare. This is troubling. An internal alarm rang out. Could it be that Ji Xian had also sensed something amiss? With a playful glint in his eyes, Ji Xian regarded him silently before stepping out of the guest room. Across the vast ocean, a tempest arose, transforming the once serene waters into a raging tempest, colossal waves surging like a curtain obscuring the sky. Torrential rain fell from the heavens, thunder clapped, and ominous sounds echoed all around. In the distant sea, all bubbles had dissipated, and the sea spirit's sacred fish had vanished without a trace, the enormous school of fish seemingly evaporating in an instant. In the midst of the fog, anguished wails, harrowing screams, and ferocious roars echoed throughout, occasionally pierced by the thunderous growls of beasts. This was the funeral dirge for the cultivators, as countless lives fell victim to the reaping of the Quasi-Emperor Sea Kings, succumbing in the distant seas. The cultivators aboard the ship, transfixed by the scene, exchanged alarmed glances, relieved they had not been tempted by those sacred fish. Otherwise, their fate would have mirrored that of the others. A rumbling sound reverberated as the spatial rules of this realm grew increasingly chaotic, the stars in the cosmos shimmering, and the chains of order quivering violently. In that moment, the cultivators glimpsed through the void the manifestations of ancient heavens. It appeared to be a tumultuous battlefield, where myriad gods and demons clashed, the fires of war raging fiercely, shattering the universe itself. Although merely an illusion, it instilled profound trepidation in the watching cultivators. This spectacle occurred in another dimension of time and space. Ji Xian comprehended it all. The battlefield before him was indeed real, though its origins in the multiverse remained a mystery. A moment of realization struck him. Were those the four sacred beasts? Through the chaos of the divine and demonic battlefield, Ji Xian discerned the silhouettes of the true dragon, White Tiger, Divine Phoenix, and Black Tortoise. In that tumult, these four had already ascended to immortality. Yet, they were soon besieged and met a tragic end. The vision abruptly concluded. Ji Xian closed his eyes in contemplation. The appearance of the four sacred beasts might be linked to the ancient immortals of this realm. It seemed his decision to activate the teleportation array was indeed wise. With a sudden ripple across the water's surface, the old sea turtle emerged, brought forth by Ji Xian's fragment of primordial spirit, and was unceremoniously cast before him. Subsequently, the spirit transformed into a streak of luminescence, soaring into Ji Xian's brow. The old sea turtle, witnessing this transformation, was rendered speechless. The figure he had perceived in white was merely a manifestation of primordial spirit. A thunderous sound resonated in the old sea turtle's mind, leaving him in a state of utter bewilderment. If even a fragment of primordial spirit possessed such quasi-emperor might, then what of the being himself? The old sea turtle's lips trembled, his whiskers quivered, as he grasped the unfathomable reality before him. In an instant, he knelt, exclaiming, "I bow before the esteemed human emperor." Ji Xian smiled and gestured for him to rise. "Thank you, great emperor." The old sea turtle, keenly aware of the situation, obediently positioned himself behind Ji Xian, now seeing himself as the latter's loyal subordinate. Noticing Ji Xian's lack of reprimand, the old sea turtle's complexion flushed with exhilaration. This was no mere ally. This was a towering pillar of divine strength. He resolved to cling tightly to this celestial support, following in his footsteps, hoping to one day reunite with the princess. In the distance, numerous sea kings emitted joyful roars, frolicking and tumbling in the ocean. After sleeping for hundreds of thousands of years, their first emergence was marked by such abundance, filling them with delight. Surrounding them were the remnants of countless cultivators, their torn bodies, organs, and blood momentarily cloaking the sea's surface, as thousands found their demise in this watery expanse. Sated and invigorated, the sea kings began to stir. He straightened his body, forming a closed circle with his immense physique, reminiscent of towering mountains, as he circled through the vast expanse of the sea. The great ship found itself at the heart of this aquatic leviathan's domain, and the cultivators aboard gazed in trepidation at the colossal sea beast in the distance. The oppressive aura emanating from the quasi-emperor was utterly terrifying. Simultaneously, they lamented the inevitable fate of their expedition, mourning the loss of so many precious sea spirit stones. Suddenly, a few streaks of light darted through the air. Those were several great saints who had plunged into the sea, their battered bodies landing on the deck, clutching glimmering stones in their hands. Miraculously, some had returned with the coveted crystals. In an instant, hundreds of fervent, covetous gazes turned towards them, as some began to covertly assess the value of those stones. After all, these were treasures coveted by ancient emperors, now so tantalizingly close, stirring desire in every heart. Humph! Let us see who dares. A bare-chested great saint clearly noticed the burgeoning greed, his face contorted with anger as he shouted to those around him. With a swift thrust of his long blade, a powerful aura of saintly might radiated outward, sending nearby cultivators scattering in fear. They realized, even in a wounded state, this great saint was not one to be trifled with. In an instant, many abandoned their nefarious thoughts. Damn it, what a wretched ship. Steady it. At that moment, a voice of fury echoed through the void, and with a flash of resplendent light, a small black vessel burst through the air, crashing onto the deck of the great ship. Boom. The impact stirred a cloud of dust, shattering the black hull into splinters. Coughing amidst the thick smoke, Sun Huawang emerged, covering his mouth with one hand, while the other clutched the unconscious, three-legged golden toad. Their bodies were adorned with an abundance of blue crystals, inciting envy among the gathered cultivators. Noticing the peculiar gazes directed at him, Sun Huawang glanced down at himself. Damn, how did I end up covered in these? Over a dozen storage rings are already full, yet there are still so many. His words drew incredulous eye rolls from the surrounding cultivators, who were baffled. Did this monkey truly fail to recognize the murderous intent of those around him? Yet he remained unabashedly arrogant. At that moment, a scholarly-looking young cultivator stepped forward, approaching Sun Huawang with an air of calm. With a warm and courteous smile, he spoke. Esteemed friend, I possess a secret treasure. Might we trade for some of the crystals you carry? Despite his polite words, his hidden hand was secretly channeling saintly power, poised to strike at any moment. Though Sun Huawang was brash, he was no fool, and he immediately sensed the young man's ulterior motive. You can take your grandmother's legs. He swung his hefty staff in retaliation. The scholar's face turned pale with terror as he drew his sword to defend himself. However, the divine might of the quasi-emperor's weapon was overwhelming. A black dragon's head emerged, obliterating the scholar and enveloping the area in a mist of crimson. Your grandfather the monkey is here. Let us see who dares to approach. Sun Huawang raised his brow defiantly, shielding the unconscious golden toad behind him. For it too bore a considerable number of crystals, drawing the covetous eyes of others. The monk preparing to strike found himself in a predicament. This monkey, having just defeated a sage king-level cultivator, was indeed formidable, and engaging him would yield no advantage. In an instant, the human wall relaxed, allowing Sun Huawang a path forward. You show discernment. Sun Huawang gritted his teeth and dragged the three-legged golden toad onward. Little monkey, do not be so arrogant. I shall extract your marrow. Suddenly, a distant yet piercing voice rang out as a drenched old crone climbed aboard from the other side of the ship, exuding an aura of purple energy. Chapter 242. One finger to annihilate the forbidden artifact. At the ship's railing, a soaked old woman emerged. She was left with only her upper body, adorned with fish, shrimp, and seaweed, clearly having escaped from the depths of that perilous sea. How are you still alive? Sun Huawang exclaimed in shock, realizing that the Sea King beast of the quasi-emperor realm had failed to finish her. The old woman channeled her power and hovered in midair, as her lack of a lower body rendered her unable to stand. Heh, it's all thanks to my forbidden artifact. Otherwise, I would have perished here. As she spoke, a foot-long treasure pagoda appeared in her hand, emanating purple mist from its 12 tiers. With the pagoda in hand, the old woman's murderous intent was palpable. The surrounding cultivators hurriedly dispersed, for a forbidden artifact imbued with imperial might, once activated, could unleash waves of force capable of obliterating them. Yet, in the shadows, several high-level cultivators moved stealthily, following the old woman, eager to share in the spoils. Heavens, how have 7 great saints gathered aboard this vessel? Gasped one of the recently returned injured cultivators. A rare congenital physique. Consuming it will surely be a tremendous boon. The old woman chuckled ominously. pressing the pagoda forward to suppress Sun Huang. Instantly, an outpouring of purple energy surged forth, transforming the pagoda into a towering structure akin to a steep sword peak. Crashing down upon Sun Huang, the overwhelming imperial pressure enveloped the entire ship in an instant. The deck and cabin splintered under the strain, while the surrounding sea roiled violently. Waves crashing as if to engulf the vessel. All surrounding cultivators could not help but kneel in submission, with the forbidden artifact manifesting. It was as if a semi-divine emperor had descended. Who would dare to contend with such might? Sun Huang struggled to uphold his obsidian staff, desperately resisting the oppressive force. His palms splitting and bones within his body fracturing under the strain. Haha, come now, step inside. Once I consume you, I may well restore my injuries completely. The old woman's mouth watered at the sight of Sun Huang's blood. Suddenly, a series of light footfalls echoed across the deck. A seemingly ordinary young man in white walked with a lightness that belied the sound, which drowned out the roar of the sea. Who might you be? The old woman's expression turned grave as she observed the approaching figure. The imperial might manifested, causing all to kneel, yet this individual approached with such ease. Especially concerning was the aura of simplicity emanating from him, which filled the old woman with trepidation. Having long since concealed his presence, Ji Xian had also altered his appearance. Now appearing no different from an ordinary mortal, he merely pointed forward, lightly tapping the air. With a resounding crack, the surface of the forbidden treasure tower erupted with a multitude of fissures, and the immense purple aura of the extreme path surged uncontrollably, gushing forth. Suddenly, a thunderous explosion echoed as the tower disintegrated in midair. The formidable forbidden artifact, which had instilled fear in countless cultivators, was thus obliterated. All the cultivators felt a sudden lightness, as if the colossal mountain pressing upon them had vanished. The elderly woman, her face painted with terror, began to retreat slowly. A flurry of thoughts racing through her mind. This individual had shattered the forbidden artifact with a mere gesture from afar. Could he possibly be a contemporary emperor? Unthinkable. Absolutely inconceivable. An emperor would not deign to walk among mortals, sharing the same fate as these insignificant ants. Ji Xian, observing the purple aura enveloping her, inquired, "Are you from the Azure Mist Heavenly Palace?" Listen closely, merely respond with yes or no. The old woman felt a tightening in her chest, her vision darkening as if she were sinking into an abyss. She understood that whether she answered affirmatively or negatively, it would lead to her demise. In light of this, she might as well admit it boldly. The Azure Mist Heavenly Palace is eternal, and you wretched creatures, bang. The upper half of the old woman exploded in an instant, a wisp of primordial spirit fire escaping. Before it could coalesce, Ji Xian seized it with a swift motion. His brow shimmered with golden light as he forcibly penetrated the old woman's primordial spirit. Images of the Azure Mist Heavenly Palace flashed before him. What? This Ji Xian dares to establish a dominion with the character Xian? Summon forth all disciples bearing Xian in their names from the Azure Mist Heavenly Palace, and expel them forever from entering the palace again. When I emerge from seclusion in 500 years, I shall slay that Ji Xian without mercy. Oh, the tribute presented today is a night pot. Very well. I shall name it after Ji Xian. There was no useful information to be gleaned, only the grotesque visage of the Azure Mist Emperor. To Ji Xian's astonishment, the deceased old woman had been a mere bed servant of the Azure Mist Emperor. Yet, her life force had waned, compelling her to venture forth in search of fortune. Subsequently, a series of withered, entangled images flickered in Ji Xian's mind. By the heavens, the Azure Mist Emperor harbors an affinity for the aged. Ji Xian's heart trembled. How could such an ancient figure indulge in such perverse desires? Even he, stoic as he was, could not suppress a sharp intake of breath. This individual must not be allowed to remain. The Azure Mist Heavenly Palace is near the Northern Dipper, originally. Ji Xian had intended to conquer the Northern Dipper sacred land and conveniently eradicate it. Now, it seems prudent to deal with this matter promptly to avoid future recollections that might tarnish his resolve. Imperial Steed, Valkyrie, Ji Xian communicated with the two divine beings. In the next moment, two rifts appeared in the void, one shimmering with golden light, the other enveloped in a menacing aura. The two entities emerged, bowing in unison. Greetings, Master. Go and slay the Azure Mist Emperor, Ji Xian commanded. Understood. They promptly rose and vanished into the void. The entire sequence transpired in less than 10 breaths. On the deck, the cultivators exchanged bewildered glances, utterly perplexed by the events unfolding before them. I recall now, those two are subordinates of the Xian Emperor, one cultivator whispered. Upon hearing this, the others widened their eyes, scrutinizing the man in the center, straining to associate him with the handsome visage of the Xian Emperor. It cannot be said to be identical. Rather, it is utterly unrelated. Thud. I pay my respects to the Xian Emperor. Nearby, a dozen individuals knelt down immediately. They were the subjects of Xian Prefecture, sheltered by Ji Xian for centuries. How could they not recognize Ji Xian? The others, witnessing this, pretended to kneel as well. To not pay homage to the emperor was to forfeit one's destiny. Even if they could not recognize him, no one dared to take that risk. You may rise, Ji Xian said nonchalantly. The crowd clasped their hands in salute, and, seeing Ji Xian had little more to say, dispersed. Ah, I did not permit you to leave. Ji Xian turned his gaze towards a few cultivators in the distance, who had just attempted to take advantage of the great sage's power to attack Sun Huang. Xian Emperor. They said with faces full of apology, utterly at a loss. The might of this emperor was forged through bloodshed, and none dared to defy him. There is nothing more to be said. Perish. A flash of golden light swept through, and the culprits were obliterated by the laws of the universe. Their bodies shattered into ash, scattering with the wind, leaving no trace behind. Boom. The Grand Star connected with the Sea King Beast's divine patterns, linking to the underwater teleportation array. It had successfully established communication with the deep-sea teleportation platform, and in an instant, the vast expanse of the ocean transformed into a profound whirlpool. The grand vessel, situated at the center, vanished from the surface in an instant under the influence of spatial forces. Chapter 243, Traversing the Void, the benevolent Ji Xian Boom. In the void, fierce winds howled as the grand ship drifted aimlessly in the darkness, like a mayfly swaying between heaven and earth. Surrounding them were various terrifying sounds, the echoes of the collision of the paths within the void. Clang. The ship's hull was eroded by the forces of the void, emitting a piercing sound as planks were lifted, swirling in the air, and the entire vessel seemed on the brink of shattering. What on earth is happening? Where have we entered? The cultivators were filled with trepidation. Having practiced for millennia, they had never encountered such a sight. Hundreds of cultivators were torn apart by the tumultuous currents, blood gushing forth. Gazing at their fading forms, a profound despair engulfed the cultivators. They had once been upon the vast ocean, but now they found themselves ensnared in a dark abyss of despair. There were no tangible objects around, only the terrifying roar that set their hearts racing. Brother, where are we headed? Will we perish? The three-legged golden toad tugged at Sun Huang's sleeve, speaking timidly. Sun Huang surveyed the surrounding darkness, feeling an unsettling discomfort in his body. As a natural Dao body, he was innately attuned to the Dao, possessing a heightened sensitivity to its essence. Yet in this place, the myriad paths clashed and intertwined, creating a chaotic tapestry of rules that sent shivers down his spine. Master, Sun Huang inquired of Ji Xian, who stood at the bow of the ship. Clad in white, Ji Xian stood tall, dispersing all the chaotic currents around him with his presence. Ji Xian extended a hand. The power of creation spread outward like thick smoke, enveloping the entire ship. The over 10,000 cultivators aboard felt their burdens lighten as the forces that had been dismantling them vanished. Ji Xian turned to Sun Huang and explained. This is the void space, the edge of the universe. Void space? As Sun Huang reminisced about the time he ventured into the void to reach the Ji family, he recalled encountering the tumultuous currents of the void. This was a trap set by the Assassin's divine dynasty, intending to assassinate them amidst the chaotic emptiness. Ji Xian nodded and continued to elucidate. The Biming Sea is not directly connected to the East Sea. To arrive there, one must traverse dozens of small universes. Thus, we may require several hundred years to accomplish this task. The spaces between universes are separated by the void, yet also interconnected through it. We are currently navigating through this void, skirting the edges of various universes, which will significantly save us time. Moreover, traversing universes and the void is a skill possessed only by emperors. The architect of this formation is certainly no ordinary individual. Sun Huang scratched his chin, appearing somewhat perplexed. Suddenly, his eyes sparkled with realization as he produced several storage rings, bouncing forward to present them. Master, these are the crystals of the sea spirit sacred fish, a token of my filial piety towards you. Ji Xian turned to glance at the storage rings in his hand, and then at Sun's bloodied figure, chuckling. Never mind. These items were earned at the cost of your life, and will prove useful to you. Keep them for yourself. I shall accept one as a gesture of your heartfelt intention. With that, Ji Xian pinched the air, conjuring a blue crystal that he tucked into his sleeve. Witnessing Ji Xian's gentle smile, Sun Huang felt deeply moved. It was no wonder that his master achieved imperial status in his 30s. Such magnanimity was indeed remarkable. Initially, Sun feared that his clandestine departure from his quarters, which nearly cost him his life, would provoke his master's wrath and lead to severe reprimands. However, it seemed his concerns were entirely unfounded. Ji Xian's composure was clearly beyond the grasp of a mere trickster like him. The choice to become his disciple had undoubtedly been wise. Throughout their journey, his efforts had not gone unnoticed by his master, and that was more than enough. He resolved to train diligently henceforth, to live up to his master's expectations. With these thoughts, tears welled in Sun Huang's eyes, nearly moved to the point of tears himself. Master, please do not say any more. I, Sun, shall certainly not disappoint your hopes. His voice trembled, clearly overwhelmed by emotion. No. What I intended to say was for you to turn around, Ji Xian replied. Sun Huang was taken aback, gazing at Ji Xian's inscrutable expression, and began to conjure scenarios in his mind. He speculated that his master was about to impart a profound teaching, which was indeed taxing for him. All right, he agreed, hastily turning around. In an instant, Ji Xian aimed at that monkey's rear and unleashed a swift kick. Bang! A loud crash echoed as Sun Huang felt a searing pain in his backside, nearly splitting apart, and in the blink of an eye, he was propelled from his spot. His surroundings spun rapidly, the entire world seeming to turn upside down. What the hell just happened? Sun Huang's heart raced with shock. Before he could comprehend the situation, he soared into the loft, smashing a large hole in the eaves and tumbling into the room they had occupied. Bang! Crash! The structure collapsed, and dust erupted into the air. Ji Xian retracted his foot, satisfied as he clapped his hands. Quite impressive. This kick was remarkably accurate. You shall not step out of this room before reaching your destination. Do not make me skin you alive. Ji Xian conveyed to Sun Huang telepathically. Young man, I shall not be unable to manage you. Subsequently, he opened the realm of creation and placed the acquired crystal into it. This crystal embodies the principles of the water path and will undoubtedly serve me well in the Eastern Sea region. System. Please replicate 100 million of these using the realm of creation. That should suffice, I presume. Ji Xian stroked his chin in contemplation. Copying in progress. Copy successful. Immediately, a small blue lake materialized within the system's space, composed of over 100 million crystals. After setting up a minor formation, he began to sit cross-legged in meditation. Inside the room, Sun Huang sat on the floor, clutching his behind with a pained expression. It truly hurts. Fortunately, the tens of thousands of crystals he had acquired were still in his possession, a vast resource for cultivation that should sustain him for quite some time. Enduring the excruciating pain, he commenced the refinement of those crystals. The three-legged golden toad stealthily entered, sitting beside Sun Huang and beginning to circulate its energy. The howling sky dog, catching the scent of the crystals, was also drawn over, harboring greedy intentions. The three-legged golden toad, noticing the little black dog circling around with ill intent, was instantly infuriated. Get lost, you wild dog. With a swift kick, it sent the little black dog flying out of the room. After rolling several times, the howling sky dog emerged from the wreckage. Damn it. A mere saint-level toad dares to strike at me. Once my other self arrives, you shall be summoned here in no time. He cast a glance at Ji Xian at the helm. Never mind, it's best if it doesn't come. Chapter 244, The Water Manifestation. Dragon Palace of the Eastern Sea. The grand vessel drifted through the void for a decade. One day, the void was forcibly torn apart by a mysterious spatial power, revealing a massive rift. Enveloped in radiant seven-colored light, the ship plunged into the rift and subsequently emerged upon an expanse of boundless ocean. Heavens, what an extraordinary sight! Exclaimed one of the cultivators. Upon hearing this, the group clutched the railing and gazed below, their expressions filled with incredulity. Before them cascaded a towering waterfall, stretching endlessly across the horizon, delving deep into the cosmos. The cerulean waters plummeted thousands of fathoms, splashing into a white mist that vanished into the depths of the universe. Above the waterfall lay the vast ocean, where the tranquil surface met the brilliant starry sky, merging the realms of water and heaven. Here was the end of the sea. The Eastern Sea resided deep within the cosmos, surrounded not by towering mountains or sandy shores, but seemingly birthed from thin air. At this moment, Ji Xian, seated at the bow of the ship, opened his eyes. With his palm raised upwards, a golden droplet of water appeared in his hand. This was the water manifestation he had refined over the past decade. With the support of the Xiankai and the myriad divine tree, he could now cultivate celestial energy within himself. Moreover, with the foundation laid by previously refining the manifestation, anything he practiced now would transcend the mundane. The golden droplet, no longer than half a pinky finger, contained an unfathomable power within. Ji Xian gazed upon the cascading waterfall before him and flicked his finger, causing a golden droplet of water to transform into a radiant stream. As the droplet shot forth, its trailing light resembled threads of gold, extending for hundreds of miles, slicing through the tumultuous waterfall. With a resounding crash, the flowing sea water came to an abrupt halt, intercepted by an enigmatic force. The area surrounding the golden droplet transformed into a vacuum, causing the incoming waves to reverse course. In that instant, the cosmic waterfall was severed by a single drop of water. The effect was quite remarkable. Merely a gentle nudge had unleashed such power. Ji Xian was thoroughly pleased with its performance. He then conveyed a message to Sun Huang and the others in the room. We shall depart. In a flurry of luminous streaks, Sun Huang, the three-legged golden toad, and the old sea turtle appeared before Ji Xian, bowing respectfully. Only the small black dog in the corner crossed its paws, snorting disdainfully and glaring with indignation. With a swift motion, Sun Huang sent the three-legged golden toad sprawling, causing it to stumble and kneel before Ji Xian, drenched in cold sweat as it stammered. I apologize, Your Excellency, I. Ji Xian halted its words with a smile, saying, let bygones be bygones. I bear no grudges. Follow your elder brother and serve the Dao sect diligently. Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you, Your Excellency. The three-legged golden toad prostrated itself 18 times before rising and retreating. Meanwhile, the howling sky dog rolled its eyes, muttering to itself. What nonsense. Ji Xian bears no grudge? The emperors who fell under your hand are too numerous to count. The emperors lost over the past hundreds of thousands of years pale in comparison to the ones you've slain in mere centuries. The old sea turtle stepped forward and addressed Ji Xian. Senior, I have sensed the location of the East Sea Dragon Palace. Allow me to guide you. Very well. A white divine chariot soared forth, drawn by 8 roaring Qilin, shaking the very stars. The group stepped onto the divine chariot, preparing to depart. On the deck of the great ship behind them, thousands of cultivators rushed forward, kneeling in reverence towards the chariot, exclaiming, "We bid farewell to your excellency. And we are eternally grateful for your life-saving grace." Had it not been for Ji Xian's display of power, they would have long succumbed to the chaos of the void. Indeed, my friends, let us part ways here. Should you return, the Xianzhou welcomes you. His voice resonated throughout the heavens, and as the echoes faded, the white